Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Man in Marvel, Thank You Supreme Doomsday. Chapter 21. Su-Yi, who was driving a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, watched the battle between Tony Stark and Obadiah and was directly implicated in himself. Can't help but be a little speechless. Although I came here to help, but you guys, give me a gift as soon as you come up, is that really okay? Although Su-Yi said so, the corners of Su-Yi's mouth slightly raised. Because there is nothing that can make Su-Yi more excited than fighting. Boom! The missile touched Cullinan's vehicle. A huge explosion echoed on the street. Many cars parked on both sides of the road sounded their sirens. Tony Stark looked at the scene in front of him, cursing himself in his heart. If he had noticed Obadiah's ambition earlier, perhaps this guy would not have died. Sir, there is still 1 minute left, 59 seconds, 58 seconds. Shut up. I can calculate this. The most important thing now is to defeat Obadiah. We can't let the battle affect innocent civilians anymore. At this time, Tony Stark's heart of justice is slowly awakening. Obadiah was wearing a steel suit and didn't care about the aftermath of the explosion. Instead, he said to Tony Stark with his extremely ugly voice, "Ha ha 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 ha, Tony Stark, why did your speed drop? Are you about to run out of energy? See how I will." Before Obadiah could finish speaking, he suddenly felt his armor, as if standing still. No matter how fast he accelerated, he couldn't move forward at all, as if his body was bound. Immediately, Obadiah looked at his legs. I saw an arm grasping it, as if being clamped. It is hard to imagine that this is the power that humans can possess. What guy? Why does he have such great power? A flash of shock flashed through Obadiah's heart. It's just that he hasn't waited for his reaction. Intense pain rushed into Obadiah's mind. Ah. Obadiah's cry of pain immediately reached Tony Stark's ears. Tony Stark, who was thinking about what to do next, heard Obadiah's screams. Also looked in his direction. The night wind is gentle. The smoke from the explosion dissipated quietly. Su-Yi's figure appeared. I saw that Su-Yi's hand was tightly grasping Obadiah's calf, constantly exerting force slowly. Under Su-Yi's strength, the incomparably tough alloy is like a piece of paper. The steel suit on the calf was easily crushed by Su-Yi. Obadiah's calf was crushed by Su-Yi, the alloy was mixed in the flesh, and flowed from the steel armor to the ground. It looked rather miserable, and the impact of this scene is no less than a nuclear bomb exploded in Tony Stark's heart. As the designer and builder of the steel suit, he knows how exaggerated the hardness of the steel suit is. Not to mention bullets, even the most advanced missiles ever produced by Stark Industries, it is impossible to hurt the steel suit. But now, Su-Yi crushed the calf of the steel suit with his bare hands. This is too exaggerated. However, more exaggeration has just begun. Intense pain kept pounding Obadiah's brain. It made Obadiah's eyes full of bloodshot blood. Let me go. Obadiah tried his best to control his body, palms facing Su-Yi's direction. The light condenses in it. Palm cannon. It's still a palm cannon at close range. Thinking about it, no matter what, the guy in front of him would definitely be bombarded to death by himself. Die to me, beast. As Obadiah's voice fell, the palm cannon was fired suddenly. Call out. The light flickered. Palm cannon rushed towards Su-Yi's head at an extremely fast speed. Before Tony Stark reminded Su-Yi. But he saw Su-Yi's other hand stretched out his palm, allowing the laser light to land on his palm. Following that, Su-Yi tightly held his palm. The palm cannon seemed to be caught and exploded by Su-Yi directly. With the sound of explosion, Su-Yi's palm reached forward again, and directly grabbed Obadiah's arm. No. Obadiah obviously thought about what Su-Yi was going to do. But just as he opened his mouth, the intense and familiar pain caused Obadiah to scream again. Ah, it hurts so much. Please spare me. Please let me go. Let you go. My Cullinan was blown up by you. How are you going to pay me? Unlike Obadiah's hysteria, Su-Yi's voice was very calm, to the point of a cold feeling. I am the second largest shareholder of Stark Industries, and I am willing to give you all my shares. As long as you spare me. Hearing Obadiah's words, the corners of Su-Yi's mouth rose slightly. Immediately, he turned to look at Tony Stark next to him. Tony Stark, you should have heard what this guy said. Do you think it will work? Yes, I promise you. Tony Stark didn't care about Suyi. Why would he recognize him? You must know that he is wearing a steel suit now. But in the face of Suyi, who knew no friends or enemies, the situation was already very good. But just when Tony Stark thought of this, Suyi directly dismantled the limbs of Obadiah's steel suit. Tony Stark's eyelids twitched. He even felt that the steel suit he was proud of. In the eyes of this man, I'm afraid it's almost like a toy. Actually said to dismantle it. Just when Tony Stark was shocked, Suyi strolled towards Tony Stark in front of him. With an inexplicable smile on his face, Suyi said, "Hey, I should be saving you this time. In order to save you, I even took a cullinan into it. Plus your life, how do you think you should repay me?" Gudong. Tony Stark swallowed. Inside the steel suit, Tony Stark was drenched in cold sweat. And at this moment, the reminder in the steel suit sounded again. "Sir, the energy has been exhausted, and the flight mode cannot be turned on." Tony Stark only felt a strong sense of loss of control as the reminder sounded for the steel suit. Let him fall directly from the air. Hit a humanoid pothole in the road. It's so embarrassing. For a moment, Suyi couldn't help but laugh. Immediately, Suyi used the camera function of the chat group to record the scene of Iron Man. You know, such a embarrassed Tony Stark is rare. After finishing all this, Sue glanced at the time. Then he bent down slightly and looked at Tony Stark in the pit. Immediately said, "Tony Stark, it's getting late today, let's talk slowly later. By the way, during this time, think carefully, how to repay me is better." After speaking, Suyi's figure disappeared in front of him. And it wasn't long after Suyi left. Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D. arrived at the battlefield and started follow-up processing with other agents. At the same time, also started the first contact with Tony Stark. Soon, Suyi's figure appeared again at the charity gala. Compared to when Suyi left, there were already a lot more people. However, when they came to the venue, Suyi heard the noisy voice. Most importantly, the voice was quite familiar to him. Looking along the sound, only Harry Osborn and Hela standing in front of him were seen. "Oh, this is simply a young master of death. How dare you mess with Hela, the goddess of death? You really belong to me, Harry." Suyi gave Harry a thumbs up in his heart. Then he came to a corner, picked up the dessert on the table next to him, and became a melon-eating crowd with great interest. "Beauty, you said you came here with your boyfriend, so where is the boyfriend? Even if you really want to find a reason, you should find a better reason," Harry Osborn said again. "Besides, I just came here to invite the dancer, so you wouldn't call me a stinky pig." PFF'd. As Harry Osborn's words fell, many people around laughed out loud. Even Suyi couldn't hold back, and almost squirted out the dessert he just ate. "I have to say, this is really Hela's style. HMPH, with your poor appearance, who else can be a stinky pig if you're not a stinky pig?" Although Hela is now a mortal physique, it can be said that she is not timid in the slightest. Her goddess of death, Hela, has never been cowardly. Hearing the beauty in front of her, she called herself a stinky pig again. Harry felt like his lungs were about to explode. He thought about this morning, when he wet his pants in front of the whole school. Now he is ridiculed by the woman in front of him again. The anger in his heart instantly ignited Harry Osborn's reason. I only heard Harry say angrily, "Fuck. You woman, let me teach you a lesson." Saying that, Harry rushed towards Hela. A coldness flashed in Hela's eyes. If she has even a little bit of divine power, she would not let the stinky pig in front of her say a word in front of her. But now, she is an ordinary person. Even the onlookers around didn't think of it. The Harry Osborn in front of him actually didn't talk about martial arts, and engaged in sneak attacks. He lifted his foot and kicked towards Hela, so that everyone did not respond. And at this moment, Suyi's figure appeared beside Hela like a ghost. He hugged Hela in his arms, tightly wrapped around Hela's waist. Suyi's appearance was really too abrupt. In addition, Harry suddenly lost the target of his attack, and he kicked empty, one accidentally fell to the ground. "What?" Harry growled. He only felt that he and Suyi were at odds. Why would I make a fool of myself whenever I met Suyi? Especially now, with celebrities all around. Harry Osborn didn't realize that this was the result of being delighted at the sight and then becoming angry from embarrassment. Instead, they put all the blame on Suyi. Angrily hit the ground. Harry Osborn said that he would never let it go. But at this moment, the voice of Norman Osborn floated into Harry's ears. Harry, come here. Hearing his father's voice, Harry woke up instantly. He was still in awe of his own father. Without any hesitation, Harry got up directly from the ground and came to his father's side. Dad, you don't have to talk, Norman said coldly to Harry next to him. Immediately afterwards, he came in front of Suyi, and said to Suyi, I have also seen what happened just now, it was Harry who was rude, please don't take offense. But Norman Osborn, after speaking, didn't pay attention to Suyi and Hela. Instead, he took Harry directly and left the charity party. After leaving the Stark Industrial Building, Harry said to his father unwillingly, Dad, why should we apologize to them? Harry, sometimes the most important thing is to do enough superficial work, understand? Surface skills. What do you mean? Harry felt a little overwhelmed. But his father, Norman, didn't explain too much. He just said to Harry, you go back first, I still have something to do, I need to go to the company. Harry was unwilling, but after hearing his father's words, he nodded and drove towards his villa. But at this time, Norman Osborn's eyes flashed fiercely. He adjusted his suit a little. Then he looked at the Stark Industrial Building next to him, and said disdainfully, whether it's that kid or that Stark Industrial Building, it's time to become history. After speaking, Norman Osborn drove to his company. Take the elevator to the secret laboratory at the bottom of the company. In the center of the laboratory, there is an aircraft, the Devil Glider. Next to the glider, there is a green armor with a yellow devil helmet. On the cabinet next to it, there are many throwing knives and pumpkin bombs. Looking at the various weapons in front of him, the smile on Norman's face became crazier. The whole person is like a different personality. The corners of the mouth were raised wildly, and the desire to destroy was in the eyes. He changed into a Green Goblin costume and filled it all up with pumpkin bombs and throwing knives. Then he bent his legs slightly, arched his body, and laughed loudly, ha 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 ha, the Green Goblin is on the move. After the words fell, the Devil Glider under Norman's feet started. The violent flames boosted the Demon Glider, and it flew away from the secret laboratory. In the dark night, the Green Goblin's sinister laughter echoed throughout the night. There were only two groups of orange-red flames faintly flickering in the sky. The night goes on. The charity gala is entering the most lively stage. Pepper picked up Tony Stark and walked in from the outside. The appearance of Tony Stark instantly ignited the atmosphere of everyone. After all, this time the charity gala was hosted by Tony Stark. From Tony Stark's face, it can be seen that he had a good talk with S.H.I.E.L.D. this time. That's why he was able to come here so quickly. However, all of this has nothing to do with Suyi and Hela. On the dance floor, Suyi looped around Hela's willow waist, their bodies were very close. They can even feel each other's breath. The two seem to be one with the music. Stepping on the rhythm of dance music, dancing there. However, at this time, Hela didn't know why, but her delicate and pretty face was so rosy. The melodious music, accompanied by the dance steps of Suyi and Hela, kept rippling. Feeling the warmth of her waist, Hela couldn't help but whispered, Suyi, you hug me too tightly, I can't breathe. But, for some reason, Hela's voice became smaller and smaller, and finally her whole body seemed to be buried in his chest. Thinking that Hela, the majestic goddess of death, would actually snuggle in his arms, this sense of accomplishment made Suyi feel very excited. He and Hela were on the dance floor again and danced for about 10 minutes. Suyi took Hela and went on to taste the delicious food. At the same time, Tony Stark also stood under the spotlight and gave a speech. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend our charity gala. I think you have heard the story about me. I was captured by the remnants of the Ten Rings gang before, and I saw the cruelty of the world. The weapons that were originally used to protect the people have become terrifying murder weapons in their hands. This kind of thing will never happen in the future. As Tony Stark's words fell, the audience suddenly burst into warm applause. And at this moment, a person slowly raised his arm. This person stood at the forefront, and everyone saw his movements. The prolonged applause slowly subsided. Tony Stark also noticed this man's movements. Immediately, he looked at the person in front of him and said, Do you have any questions? The person standing at the front of the stage was delighted when he heard Tony Stark looking at him. I only heard him say loudly to Tony Stark, "Tony, I want to ask, are you the Iron Man who appeared in the news?" As the person's words fell, everyone exclaimed, "Iron Man? What is Iron Man? This is the first time I've heard of Iron Man. Did he wrap himself in iron? I just saw the push message on my mobile phone, which said that 2 Iron Men just flew out of Tony Stark's house and fought in the sky." It's just that in addition to this video, there are other clips, but as long as it appears on the internet, it will be automatically deleted, just like being caught by a river crab. I don't know what's going on. After hearing the man's words, the others began to discuss. Tony Stark frowned slightly after hearing the man's words. But soon, it stretched out again. He smiled and said to the man, "What's your name, please?" "Jonah Jameson, newspaper owner of the Daily Bugle." "Then Jonah Jameson, I will answer your question now. I am the Iron Man you said." Jonah Jameson has been live streaming with his mobile phone on since the beginning. Nowadays, the words about Iron Man have been on the top of the hot search. That's why Jonah Jameson would choose at this time to start a live broadcast on his mobile phone and ask whether Tony Stark is Iron Man. And as Tony Stark's voice fell, the live broadcast room collapsed instantly. The whole network is boiling. Have you heard? Tony Stark of Stark Industries is really that Iron Man. My dear, Tony Stark is such a genius. Tony Stark cowhide. In particular, the speed at which the news spread was simply beyond what they could have imagined. What is Iron Man? Hela sat next to Suyi and asked Suyi. Suyi took out his mobile phone and found a video. In the video, there is a picture of Tony Stark rushing out of the villa. As for the video of him brutalizing Obadiah, it is probably given to him by S.H.I.E.L.D. But this is also just right, in line with Suyi's own wishes. Were you busy with this just now? Well, some miscellaneous things were dealt with, but the car was blown up. I guess we have to walk back today. Then can we withdraw now? Are you full? Ah. Hela nodded shyly. There is no way. Who made her an ordinary person now? You can only replenish your energy by eating. Since you have said so, let's withdraw. After speaking, Suyi took Hela and left the Stark Industrial Building. Didn't say hello to anyone. The two just strolled on the street, feeling the light night breeze, enjoying the tranquility between each other. Hela felt Suyi's hand wrapping her palm, but felt a little irritable in her heart. Because she suddenly thought of her father Odin. Odin must have noticed that he broke away from the seal. Thinking about it, he will act immediately. But now she is seriously injured and her divine power has not recovered. No matter who Odin sends over, she has no way to resist. Any one person can break her current life. Suyi, if one day someone came to arrest me, what would you do? Catch you back? Impossible, not to mention that you smashed my villa, but you are not able to pay back the high-end evening dress you are wearing. Before you pay back, I can't let you go. If I don't pay it back, will I be able to rely on you all the time? Of course, after all, you are quite comfortable to hug, and it's not bad to be a pillow. Hearing Suyi's words, a moving picture was drawn at the corner of Hela's mouth. She didn't even know what happened to herself. Before Mingming, she was called the goddess of death. Killed decisively. But after meeting Suyi, she discovered that her ruthlessness was like flirting. Suyi wasn't afraid of himself at all, instead he teased himself from time to time. This feeling was something she had never experienced before. Perhaps, it was precisely because of the loss of divine power that she felt a feeling that she couldn't feel at other times. Thinking of this, Hela's catkins took a little effort. She held Suyi's hand tightly and stopped her steps. Then he looked at Suyi next to him, and said, "Suyi, you're wrong, I'm not your pillow, but you are mine." And just when Hela's voice fell, in the dark night, there were bursts of noise and harsh laughter. "Ha ha 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 ha, the Green Goblin is here. Kid, if you offend my son, go to hell with me." Seeing Suyi's figure, the Green Goblin immediately bent down and rushed down. There was also an extra pumpkin bomb in his hand, and he threw it towards Suyi. Seeing this, Suyi raised his head, looked at the falling pumpkin bombs, and the Green Goblin stepping on the glider behind him, and said, "Hela, it seems that we are lucky, we don't have to walk back by ourselves today." 11:55 midnight. on a street next to the Stark Industries building. Suyi and Hela noticed the changes in the sky one after another. All I saw was a villain dressed in fancy clothes and covered in green, swooping towards them from the sky on a demon glider. Very fast. Even in the sky, bursts of sound exploded. Hela frowned slightly, and said to Suyi next to her, "Suyi, is there any problem?" However, Suyi didn't answer Hela's words. Instead, he said to Hela, "Hela, have you ever seen fireworks in this world?" Before Hela could answer, Suyi's voice fell. His figure disappeared in front of Hela's eyes in an instant. Hela's pupils shrank suddenly. This was the first time she saw Suyi fighting. Although he already had guesses in his heart, Suyi's strength might be very strong. But when the reality was in front of her, she still felt palpitations unavoidably. This speed is too fast. Even if he recovered all his strength, the speed could not be so fast. Just when Hela thought of this, Suyi's figure has already rushed towards the Green Goblin in the air. I saw red light condensed in Suyi's eyes. The moment Suyi opened his eyes, it turned into a heat ray and directly exploded the pumpkin bomb falling from the sky. Bombs exploded in the air, blooming in the air like fireworks. Before the Green Goblin could react, Suyi had already arrived in front of the Green Goblin. Before the Green Goblin could react, Suyi's monstrous coercion actually changed the weather in the night sky. The wind howled, and the dark clouds surged. The bright moon is swallowed by dark clouds in an instant, and the wind and moon are not seen. The Green Goblin's brain was a little down at this time. Wasn't Suyi on the ground just now? How could it suddenly appear in front of me? Could it be that it flew directly in front of you from the ground just now? But is this speed too exaggerated? You must know that he has injected the human body enhancer he researched, and he can't reach this terrifying speed. Countless questions flashed through the Green Goblin's mind. But these questions are frozen at this moment. I saw Suyi's fist gradually enlarged in the Green Goblin's eyes. The whole air seemed to explode, and it hit his abdomen heavily. The terrifying power instantly made the Green Goblin's brain blank. The unparalleled impact force is simply not something the Green Goblin can resist. Mixed with Suyi's enormous strength, the Green Goblin's body seemed to turn into a shooting star, flying towards the sky. On the other hand, Suyi has already come in front of Hela. At this moment, Hela just turned her head and looked at Suyi in front of her. You know, it took less than a second from when Suyi left just now to when Suyi came back. Standing in front of Hela, Suyi didn't know the shock in Hela's heart. He took a step forward and reintroduced himself. Hela, let me introduce myself. My name is Suyi, and I am even the Doomsday. Following Suyi's voice fell. The Green Goblin's body has also reached an altitude of over meters. At this moment, Julie suddenly exploded in the Green Goblin's body. The terrifying power turned into a torrent, completely blooming above the height meters. The deafening sound mercilessly tore through the vast, pitch-black sky. A round of bright light exploded in the air, and the scorching light rushed in all directions, dispelling the thick dark clouds, just like the sun descending into the world. Sprinkle the light on the earth, dispelling the darkness of the night. Everyone looked up to the sky, looking at the sun halo that lights up the entire sky and dispels the endless darkness. This is what Suyi just said, fireworks. And this, firework, along with the Supreme Destruction Day, that Suyi just mentioned, was completely engraved on Hela's heart. Time seemed to freeze at this moment. I don't know how long it took, maybe a second, or maybe a minute. The light of the sky is still not scattered. But under the reflection of this light, it is the fusion of the shadows of Suyi and Hela. At this moment, under the light, the two concluded their first kiss with each other. For a long time, the lips are divided. Hela nestled in Suyi's arms, and she was so tender to Suyi. She found that under the influence of Suyi, she completely changed in a short period of time. Of course, this has changed, it's just that there is more tenderness in front of Suyi. But in front of other people, she is still the goddess of death. That Hela who regards life as nothing. I'm tired, you can carry me back. Ah, Suyi responded. Then his hands passed directly through Hela's legs and back, and flew her towards the villa in the way of a princess hugging her. Suyi also brought back the devil glider by the way. Until this time, Hela didn't know how the collections in Suyi's basement came about. And after Suyi and Hela returned to the villa, they fell into a beautiful dreamland. Shield exploded. What the hell happened here? What happened to that light? Nick Fury kept mobilizing the personnel of Shield, trying to investigate what was going on as quickly as possible. He was still happy just now, but with the addition of Tony Stark, the Avengers can finally officially start. But before he was happy for a few minutes. I saw a round of sunlight like the sun. Blooms in the dark, hang in the air for a long time. The huge energy contained in this light. As the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury, even a fool knows that it is not something that they can grasp. But at the very least, you must have information. Let him know who actually did this one. The intelligence work of S.H.I.E.L.D. is still very powerful. All kinds of cameras and surveillance satellites are almost all over the world. Under Nick Fury's order, this huge machine started to run immediately. In just a moment, they found out what was going on. However, when Nick Fury knew the truth of the matter, he completely collapsed on the chair. What did you say? Suyi punched the Green Goblin into the air. Is this light blasted out by Suyi's punch? I'm afraid you are not talking about the fantasy novels of the Dragon Kingdom. Who can blast this thing out with a single punch? Nick Fury said to Coulson in front of him. At the same time, he pointed to the light in the distance. The light is still spreading. Even the afterglow is a little brighter than the afterglow of the sun. The whole night shone like day. Coulson showed embarrassment. Director, why don't I investigate again? Maybe I made a mistake. When Nick Fury heard Coulson's words, he immediately said, Mommy Falk. Hurry up and check. I want the most correct result. Yes, Chief. After Coulson finished speaking, he turned and ran. He knows the current bureau chief, and he is in a very bad mood. Think about it too. In Nick Fury's previous thinking, no matter how strong Suyi is, there is still a limit. As long as you get Captain Marvel's pager back, with the strength of Captain Marvel, I'm afraid it won't be easy to handle. But now, with the power to turn night into day with this fist, how can they fight? I'm afraid that in the future, I will never be able to offend this master. Thinking of this, Nick Fury's face became even darker, only to hear him yelling again, Falk. A week has passed since Suyi turned the night into day with one punch last time. During this week, Suyi bought another Cullinan, and took Hela around to visit delicious places. The days can be described as beautiful, especially without the hassle of S.H.I.E.L.D. Suyi also spent a lot more time in the water group in the chat group. Suyi, I haven't seen Whitebeard much recently. CC, Whitebeard appears less and less frequently recently. If it wasn't for the call for help in the chat group, it hadn't been turned on. I even thought something happened to Whitebeard. CC, however, the strength of Whitebeard is obvious to all. The power of the shaking fruit can form huge waves with a wave of hands. Yuki Asuna. Yes, I remember the old man with the white beard said before that he seems to be the strongest man in the sea. Yuki Asuna. Think about a person with such an exaggerated name, how could he be weak? Hinata. Grandpa Whitebeard's strength, even in our world, is top-notch. Maybe it's really because he's been busy recently. Edward Elric. Is Whitebeard really that powerful? I haven't seen him a few times since I joined the chat group. Yuki Asuna. Have you ever seen before, the old man with white beard is in the water group in the morning, in the water group at noon, and in the water group at night. Yuki Asuna. There was no old man with white beard, and when there was no water. We can only talk to each other, so we can even talk to the white beard. Edward Elric. Isn't that an exaggeration? Yuki Asuna. No exaggeration, absolutely no exaggeration. CC. Edward Elric. Don't take Asuna's word for it, she loves exaggerating the truth. Yuki Asuna. Which, you're talking bad about me again, believe it or not, I'll never talk to you again. Furious. JPG. Suyi looked at the two girls in the chat group, and started arguing again. I just feel a little dumbfounded. The two of them are definitely best friends. Suyi knew it, although the two of them usually exposed each other's shortcomings, but the relationship between them was still very good. Besides, watching the two women bicker is also very interesting. Inadvertently, the corners of Suyi's mouth rose slightly, revealing a very happy look. Seeing Suyi's smile, Hela also smiled and said, Suyi, what are you thinking of, and you are smiling so happily? Of course I can accompany you, a big beauty, to eat and drink here. Hela heard Suyi's flabbergasted words, and gave Suyi a blank look. HMPH, I don't know who it is, there is such a beautiful little girl chasing after me. The little girl Hela was talking about was naturally Hannah. Recently, as long as Suyi went to school, he could meet Hannah. To Suyi, that's called asking for warmth. So much so that now Suyi is considered a minor celebrity in the school. You're not jealous, are you? When Hela heard Suyi's words, her delicate and pretty face flushed a little. What are you thinking? How can I, the dignified Hela, be jealous? Even if she is jealous, Hela will never admit it. Because she is the goddess of death. But, is she really jealous? While Hela was thinking wildly there, Suyi's complexion changed slightly. Ding, Uji Huli joins the group chat. Ding, Esdeath joined the group chat. Ding, the chat group has reached level 2. Unlock the redemption store. Chat members can use points to redeem in the store. A series of electronic voice prompts resounded in the minds of each group member. Asuna Yuki was the first to bubble up. Yuki Asuna. Wow, this time, 2 newcomers came in at once. Hinata. Welcome sisters to the Dimensional Chat Group. Edward Elric. Finally a newcomer has arrived, so I am considered a veteran. Edward Elric. Excited. JPG. CC. Ah, there are actually 2 girls with nice names here. Unojawali. What kind of ability is this? Why does this kind of thing appear in my mind? Estes. Is this Tegu's ability? But with my ability, you should notice it when you get close to me. Estes. It seems that I have come to a very interesting place. Suyi. Newcomers are welcome to join our dimensional chat group. I am the owner of the group, Suyi. Our members come from different planes, and everyone lives in a different world. Suyi. Here we help each other like family members. In addition, the chat group has now reached 8 people, and many functions have been activated. Suyi. If you have time, you can check more. The various functions in the chat group, I believe there will be a lot of gains. Estes. Group leader. That is the head of this chat group. So are you the strongest? Do you want to fight me? Unojawali. I also want to compete with the group leader. After all, I am very confident in my own strength. Hishan. JPG. Yuki Asuna. I feel that these 2 rookies are so strong, they are going to challenge Suyi as soon as they come up. Hinata. Brother Suyi is the strongest. No rebuttal. JPG. Edward Elric. Remind the 2 newcomers, the group leader is very powerful, you should not be his opponent. Estes. Oh, yeah. How do you know this kind of thing? Unojawali. I'm also curious about how powerful the group leader is, and why you all admire him so much. Unojawali. And is it possible to take his place as long as you defeat the group leader? Look at the information in the chat group. Suyi also felt that his blood was boiling. You must know that no matter it is Ujawali or Esdeath, they are all very powerful existences. Ujawali was originally named Ujawa Yachinliu. He is the first god of death to have the title of Sword 8. He is also the founder of the team and the concept of the team. Its strength can be said to be overwhelming. Estes is a Super S fighting maniac. At such a young age, she is the most powerful existence in the entire empire in her world. None of them. Its ability can freeze time and space, making time pause for a few seconds. The fighting power of these 2 people can be said to be very powerful. In Suyi's heart, the will to fight surged even more. I can't wait to fight the 2 girls now. Maybe, he will be able to evolve more powerful skills with the ability of Supreme Doomsday. But at this moment, the chat group sent an alarm. Ding, all members please pay attention, Whitebeard is calling for help. Ding, release the mission. Save Whitebeard, limit the number of people, 3 people, reward, 1000 points. At this moment, the atmosphere in the chat group seemed to be completely frozen. In the chat group, when Suyi saw the call for help notification, his pupils suddenly shrank. If Suyi remembers correctly, the worst time for Whitebeard must have been the battle on the top. Should it be said that Whitebeard deserves to be Whitebeard? Always be the most active when helping members of the group. But when you need our help, you would rather support yourself. This character is really stubborn. But now, it doesn't matter anymore. As the group leader, he will never turn a blind eye to the members of his group. Suyi, all members. Everyone, the members are in trouble, now it's our turn to play. Esdeath, does that mean there will be battles? Just right, now I also want to stretch my muscles. Usually, battle is everything. When you meet for the first time, you have to give a gift, so let me use a gorgeous battle to create a top-notch killing feast for you. Yuki Asuna, it seems that these two rookies are very strong. Or let them go. CC, indeed, for us at present, the battle is still too difficult. Hinata, if Brother Suyi needs it, I am willing to sign up. I have officially graduated from ninja school ahead of schedule. I can start accepting tasks. Edward Elric, I can fight, too. Suyi, well, this time, let me take the newcomer to meet the world. I will broadcast live at that time. Anyone who dares to hurt the members of the group, as the group leader, I will never let it go. Follow Suyi to finish the sentence. Without any hesitation, he immediately set up a passage through the world. The task members are locked as Suyi, Yunohana Lai, and Esther's. In just an instant, everyone walked into the passage. Navy headquarters. Marin Vando. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates was completely stunned. The air was tense like never before. Countless people just feel that they are a little out of breath. Even through the live phone bug, people all over the world saw this scene in front of them. The strong impact stimulated their eyeballs. Whitebeard was assassinated. How could it be? Whitebeard was assassinated by his own son. Whitebeard, how is this possible? It was Whitebeard's son, the great Eddie Spider, who assassinated him. On the foreheads of countless people, there were countless cold sweats. Their hearts seemed to stop suddenly, and a strong shock was born in their hearts. Skuyid, why are you doing this? Marco roared, his arms burst into blue flames, and he kicked towards Squad with his arms waving. Bang! Skuyid was kicked to the side by Margao. However, the great vortex spider Skuyid didn't show any remorse. The originally fierce face was even more terrifying at this moment. He glared ferociously at the Whitebeard in front of him. Whitebeard, come to an end to this boring farce, you are joking with our lives. Haven't you already made an agreement with the Navy? The lives of your Whitebeard pirates and Ace will definitely be saved. They have already admitted it. We risked our lives to come here for Ace, but look there, isn't the Navy killing us? The roar of the great vortex spider Skuyid also reached the ears of many people. They all looked at the Whitebeard not far away in shock. Is this a rigged war? How is it possible? This is absolutely impossible. I believe in Dad, Dad will never make such a choice. The big vortex spider also had a wry smile on its face at this time. It's a miracle to be able to stab you once, and now everyone knows your true face, so you can kill me right here. When Whitebeard heard the words of the great Eddie Spider, his complexion was indescribably heavy. The Whitebeard had a gloomy face, and slowly raised his arms. Everyone who noticed this scene held their breath at this moment. However, when Whitebeard's arm suddenly fell, only then did they realize that Whitebeard's actions did not contain the slightest killing intent. He even hugged the big vortex spider directly in his arms. But Whitebeard's heavy voice drifted to the ears of the great Eddie Spider, although you are my stupid son, I still won't attack you. Old father. This time, Skuyid was completely stunned. He stood there dumbfounded. This scene was completely different from what he had imagined. At the beginning, Akainu told himself that he was betrayed by Whitebeard and the others. This war is completely like a massacre. As long as he can assassinate Whitebeard, the pirate group under his command can be rescued. But now, the big vortex spider, Skuyid, suddenly discovered that that despicable villain had always been himself. Inadvertently, a big man had tears in his eyes. Old father, I was wrong. As the words of the great Eddie Spider fell, it was as if he was bearing an unbearable weight. The whole person knelt directly on the ground. Gu la 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 la. I have a white beard. Navy, you lied to my son, and I will definitely make you pay a terrible price. On the execution stand, Sengoku looked at everything that happened in front of him. Even if he is the furthest away from Whitebeard. But he could still clearly feel the shocking fighting spirit erupting from Whitebeard. The strongest man in this sea finally got serious now. Red Dog, take advantage of his illness to kill him, don't give Whitebeard a chance. Yes, Martial. The figure of Akainu rushed towards Whitebeard in the blink of an eye. A large amount of magma rose from both arms, emitting black smoke, burning the surrounding space into an illusion. Ming dog. Akainu attacked extremely fast this time. The fist that released the lava came to Whitebeard in the blink of an eye. Protect Dad. Hurry up and protect Dad. Return to defense. Protect Dad. Whitebeard's sons were completely panicked at the moment. Marco made a gesture to resist the attack of Akainu, but never thought that Whitebeard would step out at this moment. The power of the shaking fruit is attached to the fist. The fist with unparalleled power of shock drew an arc in the air, and smashed heavily in front of him. At the same time, Whitebeard said angrily, "Cheat my son. Go to hell, Akainu." In an instant, the space shattered. The space within thousands of meters ahead was distorted and shattered by the power of the shaking fruit. When it collided with Akainu Mingu, it caused a terrifying explosion. And this explosion was like a signal, and several figures appeared on the edge of the battlefield not far away. These figures are none other than Blackbeard pirates. The appearance of the Blackbeard pirates attracted the attention of others on the battlefield. That's the huge battleship San Juan Wolf. And the villainous King Bartropazaro. Drunk Bacchus Chotes here. That woman seems to be Crescent Moon Hunter Katrine Tippin. Shiliu, the former guardian of the City of Advancement, is also in Blackbeard's team. Thief, ha 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 ha. I never thought I would be able to see you again before you die. Whitebeard. The muscles on Whitebeard's body trembled slightly, which was caused by extreme anger. Chi, only you are not worthy to be my son. You violated the only iron rule on my ship. You killed your companion. So, let me take your fool's life, let him rest in peace. Whitebeard's cold voice reached Tiki's ears. Instead of being afraid, Tiki laughed out loud. Ha 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 ha, I think you should worry more about yourself. Whitebeard. As if to verify what Whitebeard said, the monstrous magma suddenly erupted in front of Whitebeard. The dog bites the red lotus. Akainu's lava-formed arm turned into the shape of a dog's head, and quickly rushed towards Whitebeard's abdomen. Go to hell, Whitebeard. Akainu endured the injury just now, and unleashed his strongest blow. Even the other pirates didn't expect that the majestic Admiral Akainu would actually launch a sneak attack at this time. Puff. With a hot lava fist, he mercilessly inserted into Whitebeard's abdomen. Then it went out from the other side. Fire spit. The members of the Whitebeard pirates were completely stunned when they saw the scene in front of them. Especially the terrifying big hole in Whitebeard's abdomen. It's not too scary. But Whitebeard is not a vegetarian either. Akainu, go to hell with me. As Whitebeard's voice fell, I saw that Whitebeard's palm gathered a lot of shaking power again. Pressed it directly towards Akainu's head. Everyone took a deep breath. Especially those in the Navy. They couldn't even imagine that Whitebeard still has such a strong fighting power after being stabbed and pierced through the abdomen by Akainu. Is this the strongest man at sea? Come here with their thoughts. Whitebeard's fist hit Akainu's head. Chi. Akainu's head fit closely with Whitebeard's face. The powerful force pressed the red dog and fell towards the ground. Gritting his teeth tightly, Akainu's body has been covered with armed domineering. But in front of Whitebeard's ability, it has almost no effect. Following Akainu's body, the moment it landed on the ground, Whitebeard's ability suddenly activated. Boom. The power of the shock was mixed with the terrifying power of Whitebeard, and it acted on Akainu's body. In just the blink of an eye, Akainu's body smashed directly into the ground, forming a human-shaped pothole. But the power of the Junjun fruit remained undiminished, and it fanned like a bamboo, rushing towards the navy ahead. The ground was cracked inch by inch, and accompanied by a strong bloody smell, it spread towards the surroundings. Marine soldiers simply cannot resist the power of Whitebeard. The sky is full of haze. In the vast land under Marin Vanduo, blood flowed into rivers and corpses were strewn all over the place. With just one blow from Whitebeard, there are stumps and broken arms everywhere. At this moment, the air seemed to be silent. Only the thick smell of blood wafted in the air, which explained the results of the battle that Whitebeard had just done. Gu la 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 la. I am but a Whitebeard. As Whitebeard's words fell, a large amount of blood spattered from his body again. The blow with all his strength just now coupled with the serious injury he received before, immediately pulled the hidden wound in Whitebeard's body. Countless hidden wounds erupted at this moment. Intense pain acted on Whitebeard's body. Today's Whitebeard has difficulty even taking a single step. But the arrogance on Whitebeard's body turned into a raging wave and soared into the sky. Father, are you okay? Margot waved his wings, came to the side of Whitebeard, and asked in a low voice to Whitebeard. At the same time, be careful around you. However, facing the words of his son Margot, Whitebeard did not speak. His face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost, and his brows were tightly knit together. His expression was incomparably stagnant, and a sense of loneliness that couldn't be concealed slowly drifted away from Whitebeard's body. Hateful. My body can't move at all. I'm a Whitebeard. My son Ace hasn't been rescued yet. I have yet to see them retreat safely. How come? How can you just give in like this? I have a white beard. Thinking of this, a gleam of light seemed to flash in Whitebeard's eyes. Maybe it's the reason for the flashback. Whitebeard only felt that his body seemed to relax a little. Most of the dark wounds seemed to have subsided. Clutching the supreme sharp knife Kong Yunchi tightly in his hand, Whitebeard's voice echoed on the battlefield. Sons, launch the final charge and save Ace. Thief, ha 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 ha, it's too late. With the current it is impossible to take even one step. You are just trying to be brave here. Otherwise, you would have come here to kill me long after you finished cleaning up the red dog. How could you save Ace first? You are still old after all. Whitebeard. Then let you be my strength now. Give it to me. Get rid of Whitebeard completely. Blackbeard exudes fierceness all over his body. His eyes are full of endless madness. As his voice fell, all members of the Blackbeard pirates were dispatched. The Whitebeard's eyes looked at everything in front of him. The gray sky seemed to be covered with a layer of mist. Memories of the past, in Whitebeard's mind, emerged like a kaleidoscope. Immediately afterwards, Whitebeard subconsciously thought of the happiness of the water group. A smile hung on the corner of Whitebeard's mouth at this time. Holding Kong Yunchi tightly in his hands, Whitebeard slowly took a deep breath. Anyway, his body could no longer hold on, just before he died completely. Let's go crazy for the last time. At the very least, Tiki must be killed. Thinking of this, Whitebeard braced his body and picked up Kong Yunchi in his hand. The power of the shaking fruit is condensed on the tip of the knife. Daddy, stop it, Dad, you're going to. No, Father. Father, leave these things to us. The surrounding sounds drifted into Whitebeard's ears. It made Whitebeard's heart feel extremely gratified. Marco, after I die, rescue Ace and retreat immediately. Whitebeard, having sons like you is the happiest thing in my life. And just when Whitebeard's voice fell, there was a sudden change in the sky. A passage appeared on the battlefield of Marin Fando. At the same time, Su Yi's joking voice sounded. Yo, Whitebeard, you don't plan to fight to the end just like this. Following Su Yi's words, 3 figures appeared on the battlefield. Yo, Whitebeard, you don't plan to fight to the death just like this. Su Yi's figure, following his words, came into everyone's eyes. Following behind Su Yi were 2 extremely glamorous beauties. The moment Esdeath and Unohanaretsu appeared, many people's hearts were moved. They have never seen such an exotic woman. The temperament on his body seems to be completely different from this world. And this scene also fell into the beautiful eyes of the Empress Boya Hancock not far away. At this time, she was also secretly startled by the temperament and appearance of the 2 women. Faintly, a feeling rose in her heart that the 2 women in front of her were not inferior to her. Unlike what happened in One Piece, Boa Hancock and Luffy have never met at all. Sudden changes on the battlefield. It immediately attracted the attention of Sengoku, Garp and other navies. Warring states. What fruit is this guy capable of? Garp. I don't know, but it seems that the visitor is not friendly, and it is very likely that he and Whitebeard are in the same group. When Garp said this, he was slightly relieved. He had a hunch that maybe Ace wouldn't just die like this. He already regarded Ace as his family. If possible, he very much hopes that Whitebeard can rescue Ace. And at this moment, Blackbeard's voice resounded in everyone's ears. Ha 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 ha, are these 3 people your reinforcements? But do you think these 3 people can withstand our attack? Give it to me. Let Whitebeard and the others know how powerful our Blackbeard pirates are. Tiki said viciously to Whitebeard. He wasn't afraid of Suyi, who came suddenly. In his opinion, no matter what kind of ability Suyi has, it is useless in front of his dark fruit. And his companions are not in vain, each of them is notorious. The existence of children. Stop crying. Whitebeard, I'll talk about your matter later, let us help you solve everything first. Su Yiqing's cold words fell into the ears of Whitebeard and the rest of the Whitebeard pirates. At this moment, Margao said to the Whitebeard next to him, "Father, they are." All of them pricked up their ears at this time. "They are my family." As Whitebeard's voice fell, the members of the Whitebeard pirates froze for a moment. Su Yi turned on the live broadcast, and at the same time said to Esdeath and Unohana Retsu next to him, "Don't you two want to fight? The Blackbeard pirates in front of you can solve it." Esdeath and Unokanagi looked at each other. They are still amazed by the transformation of the world. Thinking that the members of the group can travel through each other's worlds, they already fully believe in the existence of the chat group in their hearts. Since Whitebeard is one of the members of the group, they are also members of the group, so it doesn't matter if they help out. Leave them to me alone. After all, Esdeath rushed forward suddenly. Hey, you don't want to eat alone." Seeing that Esdeath took the lead, Unohana Lai rushed over like Esdeath without any humility. Under the gaze of everyone, the two women rushed towards the Blackbeard pirates. Seeing this, Warring States shook his head slightly. It seems that Whitebeard and the others are really at the end of their rope, and actually let two completely unknown women charge forward to fight against the Blackbeard pirates. You must know the members of the Blackbeard pirates, but none of them are easy to mess with. Carp frowned deeply when he saw this scene. Not to mention the strength of the two women, the difference in numbers alone is enough to crush these two women. The thoughts of Warring States and Carp are obviously the thoughts of most people. In their minds, there are only a handful of powerful women in the sea. For example, 4 emperors Bigmom, or Boya Hancock and Kibui. But I hadn't heard of the existence of these two women at all, and it seemed that Whitebeard had pulled them over to make up for it. At this time, Esdeath and Unohana Retsu had already arrived in front of the Blackbeard pirates. It seems that there are two women who came to die, let me get rid of them. Katrine is an ability user in the form of animal, phantom beast, dog fruit, and nine-tailed fox. The ability can be said to be very powerful. At the same time, after seeing the attractive faces of the two women, she felt an unprecedented killing intent in her heart. A cyan light burst out of his body immediately, 9 tails were pulled out from his back, and the aura on his body was entwined with murderous aura. Katrine's aura has increased several times. However, what Katrine didn't know was that both Esdeath and Unohana were sensitive to murderous intent. Originally, they were still thinking about who should start first. Now, they have determined their goals at the same time. Shunbu, Unojawali groaned, and his body disappeared in place in an instant. In the next second, she suddenly appeared in front of Katrine. Before Katrine could react, Zanpakudauro Shizuku sha pulled out from Uno Hanaretsu's scabbard. The monstrous spiritual pressure burst out. The silver light flickered, and a little cold light came first. Uo no Hanalai compressed his own spiritual pressure to the extreme, and cut it out from the blade, the scimitar cut technique. Stab it. A razor-sharp sword chi slashed down. Mixed with a destructive aura, look at everyone. The space seemed to be chopped into pieces. When everyone came back to their senses, Ujihuali had slowly withdrawn his sword. Only Katrine, who was in front of Uo no Hanali, was directly cut off in the middle. At the same time, bursts of white crystal like frost covered Katrine, who had been cut in two. In an instant, Katrine's body was frozen into slag, and was completely blown away by the wind. At this moment, everyone who looked down on the two women before felt an indescribable pain on their face. They even wondered if the woman in front of them was a real woman. This kind of strength is too strong. That one looks very well behaved, with Yamato Nautico-like, with long black hair, not to mention the strange gait. Let's just say that the substantive spiritual pressure just now fell into the perception of the Navy and pirates, that is a proper domineering look. Still able to attack the domineering color domineering. This level of domineering is probably even worse than that of red hair. And the woman with blue hair and wearing a military uniform has the same ability as Aokiji. But the ease with which he can use it is probably higher than Aokiji's level. In particular, they can kill the terrorist criminals imprisoned on the 6th floor in an instant. This kind of power is probably beyond their imagination. Carp, I don't know why, I have a bad feeling. Zhongguo looked at the battle situation in front of him, and his tone trembled slightly. It seems to verify the idea of the Warring States period. The two women looked at each other, with the corners of their mouths raised. Esdeath, the strength is not bad. Yoruichi, to each other. Esdeath, should we try it out and see who can solve more people? Yoruichi, I can't ask for it. In a few words, the two women determined the future of the Blackbeard pirates. And everyone in the chat group fell into silence after seeing the terrifying strength of the two women. Yuki Asuna, my dear, the power of these two newcomers is too terrifying. CC, indeed, they are completely relaxed and freehand now, and they don't seem to be struggling at all. CC, that is to say, those members of the Blackbeard pirates can't make them use their full strength. Edward Elric, I thought I was no longer a rookie, but in front of these two rookies, I am still a rookie. Edward Elric, no, I want to become stronger too. I'm going to the Points Mall to have a look, maybe I can exchange for something. The screen turns. The Blackbeard pirates were outraged by Katrine's death. Blackbeard's already swarthy face became even darker now. All he saw was grinning and swung his big hand full of rings forward. One Piece, kill these two women. Following Blackbeard's voice, it fell. The first one to rush towards Yoruichi was the drunkard Bacchus Chote. He reached out to his mouth and poured a large glass of wine. Smelling of alcohol, he took out his gun and rushed towards Yoruichi. And the evil King Bartropazaro also cooperated with the drunkard Bacchus Chote to charge. Facing the menacing two men, Ujiwaretsu did not have the slightest timidity. The speed did not decrease, but was a little faster. I saw Yoruichi stretching out her slender hand, and her cherry lips parted slightly, O King of Kings. The mask of flesh and blood, Vientiane, fluttering wings, and the name of human beings. Scorching heat and strife, across the sea to the south, step forward. Broken path number 31, Red Cannon. Accompanied by Unazi Waretsu's voice fell. Suddenly condensed in her palm, a red cannon with a thick scorching breath. Bang! When the red cannon appeared, the space seemed to be burned into nothingness. The huge red cannon was in a straight line, carrying countless hurricanes, rushing fiercely towards the drunkard and the evil king. HMPH, worm carving trick. A flash of disdain flashed in the evil king's eyes. The device on the arm started to work at this time. Then used the momentum to slam towards the red cannon. Boom boom boom. The two collide. The sound of explosions one after another echoed in everyone's ears. A mushroom cloud just appeared in everyone's field of vision. They only felt the ground tremble, and many seriously injured people fell to the ground directly. Is this the power of the evil king? This is too terrifying. The Blackbeard pirates are indeed all vicious people. If it was the record of the two of them before, can they really win the siege now? The surrounding navies, or pirates, all had this idea in their hearts. But the drunkard didn't give Uno Hanana a chance at all. The gun in his hand kept spitting out flames. Bang! 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 Bullets, armed with the drunkard's domineering aura, shot fiercely towards Uno Hana in the smoke with strong force. But at this moment, the mushroom cloud kept rising towards the sky. In the blink of an eye, it was washed away by Uno Hana's Reiatsu. However, after the mushroom cloud was dispersed by the spiritual pressure, there was no figure of Ujiwali on the battlefield. Strange, where did the person go? The drunkard carefully looked at the battlefield in front of him, constantly looking for the figure of the enemy. Suddenly, at this moment, the drunkard only felt that his knowledge was domineering, and issued a violent warning. Looking up, the drunkard and the others looked at the sky together. I saw that Ujiwali had jumped into the sky at this time, and the strong wind was blowing her clothes. Yamato Nautiko's temperament completely dissipated at this time. Instead, endless excitement of fighting spirit. You know, she is the first Shinigami to hold the title of Sword 8. Shiji meets Shizuku. Accompanied by Unazi Waretsu's voice fell. The Zanpakuto in her hand suddenly turned into a huge and flat one-eyed monster. From the sky, it smashed down on the evil king and the drunkard with force. Ryu Shizuku's body was so big that they couldn't easily dodge it. Time is running out. I can only bear it hard. Seeing this, the evil government king and the drunkard used the armed domineering together, just to strengthen their defense a little bit. But even so, boom, the moment Shizuku rushed down from the air, they were also crushed into meat paste. Not only that, but a 1,000-meter pit appeared on the entire ground. In the big pit, no one survived. After Shizuku turned into Zanpakuto again, only Anohanaretsu was left, standing in the center of the pothole, with a gentle smile like Yamato Nadeshiko on his face. When everyone saw the scene before them, they felt a terrifying chill enveloping themselves. They looked at Unojiwali in the distance in disbelief, with nothing but awe in their hearts. From the disdain at the beginning to the shock now. They didn't dare to underestimate Unojiwali at all. Just, why is it suddenly so cold today? Suddenly everyone knew where the chill on their bodies came from. Look, it's snowing. It's so cold, the temperature seems to have dropped out of thin air. What the hell is going on here? For some ordinary soldiers on the battlefield, their combat effectiveness was reduced by more than half as soon as the weather changed. At this time, everyone noticed who the person who caused this change was. I saw Esdeath walking slowly towards the huge battleship of the Blackbeard pirates. The name of the huge battleship is San Juan Wolf. As a giant, he has a very huge body. After getting Blackbeard's order, he rushed towards Esdeath. With its huge and heavy body, every step it took would cause a pothole to appear on the ground. And Esdeath's eyes were watching everything in front of him calmly and fiercely. The power is good, but it's not enough. Following Esdeath's voice fell. There was a blizzard immediately at Marin Vanduo. The demon god appears, the essence of demons. Esdeath murmured softly, as she pointed to the huge battleship in front of her. Countless icicles appeared on the ground behind her. The ice thorns seemed to be able to grow, and rushed towards the huge battleship at an extremely fast speed. At this time, everyone knew the reason for the sudden cold weather. Seeing the ice thorns coming towards him, the huge battleship's eyes sank, but it didn't panic in the slightest. Armed colored domineering emerged from his fists. He clenched his fists tightly and slammed forward. In an instant, the space set off bursts of empty explosions. Bang! The huge fist landed on the ice spikes. The ice spikes were directly smashed into powder. However, the corner of Esdeath's mouth slightly raised at this time. I saw Esdeath raised his arms. And the broken ice crystals, under her control, directly attached to the body of San Juan Wolf. There was even a storm of ice crystals blowing around her. Freeze this giant San Juan dire wolf with ease. At this moment, Esdeath walked slowly towards San Juan Bad Wolf. All the soldiers or pirates in front of Esdeath subconsciously made way at this time. I saw Esdeath came in front of San Juan Wolf, and the catkin, which looked extremely white, raised it casually. Snapped. San Juan Wolf was directly beaten into ice crystals by Esdeath. The audience was like dead silence. At this time in the Warring States period, the corner of his mouth twitched even more. These two women, they are too powerful. What are they coming from? The bad premonition in Zongguo's heart became more and more obvious at this time. Garp also touched Aokiji next to him, and said to Aokiji, "Aokiji, you are a frozen fruit-capable user, what do you think of that woman's ability? Is it exactly the same as yours? In this world, there are no two identical ability users. Therefore, they just regard Esdeath as a very similar fruit, such as shui shui fruit." However, Aokiji's expression had completely froze. Even Garp's words couldn't make Aokiji recover from the stagnation. Garp originally had a relaxed expression, but also became a little stagnant. He looked at Aokiji in front of him, and said to Aokiji, "Hey, Aokiji, what's wrong with you?" After speaking, Garp patted Aokiji heavily. Only at this moment did Aokiji fully recover from the shock. However, Aokiji's body trembled slightly, his lips trembled slightly, and said, "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. My ability is useless." As Aokiji's words fell, the pupils of Sengoku, Garp and the other navy standing beside them all shrank suddenly. Garp even said, "Aokiji, are you sure you are not joking? How is this possible? Even if it is a high-ranking fruit, it is impossible to achieve this level." Aokiji's forehead was covered with cold sweat. I don't know, but it seems that as long as that woman uses the ability, my ability can't be used. It seems that the ice in the whole world is under the control of that woman. As Aokiji's voice fell, everyone turned their attention to Esdeath and Unohanaretsu next to him. They only felt that they felt unprecedented strength from the two women. But, at this time, they found Blackbeard, and they were about to come to Whitebeard. Blackbeard naturally realized that his subordinates were all dead. But so what? He has the most powerful dark fruit. No matter what fruit ability it is, it won't have the slightest effect on him. After he defeated Whitebeard and won Whitebeard's shaking fruit, you only need to raise your arms to recruit more powerful pirates. Ha 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 ha, no one can stop me anymore. Just as Blackbeard laughed loudly, Suyi's figure suddenly moved. No one noticed when Suyi came to Blackbeard. In the blink of an eye, they realized that Suyi was already standing in front of Blackbeard. Margao, who was standing next to him, exclaimed even more, "Okay, what a fast speed." I saw that Suyi raised his hand, clasped his middle finger and thumb, and prepared to finish off Blackbeard in one go. But at this moment, Whitebeard's voice was heard. "Suyi, leave Blackbeard's life to me. As the father of my sons, I must personally avenge my son." At this moment, a raging fire was constantly burning in Whitebeard's chest. The reason why he can persevere until now is because of this guy Blackbeard. After hearing what Whitebeard said, Suyi said lightly, "All right, I'll spare this guy's life." As Suyi's voice fell, he immediately withdrew most of his strength. Then flitted towards the Blackbeard. Hybrid heard Suyi's words, and even saw Suyi's disdainful eyes. A sternness flashed in his eyes. The murderous aura erupted from his body suddenly. "Don't underestimate me, you fool," Tiki roared his own voice, and the power of the dark fruit condensed in his hands. "No matter what ability it is, it will disappear in front of my dark fruit." After finishing speaking, Tiki stretched out his hand, wanting to take over the power of Suyi's finger. Just this moment, it seems that only the power of this finger is left in the world. The air exploded in an instant. The whole ground seemed to be lifted up. Yisu moved forward a little bit, spreading forward in a fan shape. And Blackbeard, who is at the center of this power, only feels that his dark fruit ability has not played the slightest role. All the strength is on his body. The body made a crackling sound. It was the sound of bones breaking apart. Intense pain rushed directly to the brain. This is simply not something he can bear. Pupils rise uncontrollably. Blackbeard's eyes, at this moment, only showed the whites of the eyes, and a trace of pupils. The whole person passed out completely. His body was like a cannonball, flying towards the distance at an extremely fast speed. The strong wind pressure set off directly crushed the soldiers along the way into blood foam. Boom! Before everyone could react, what was going on? I saw the figure of Blackbeard, who had already fallen into the naval headquarters of Marin Vanduo. Wow! Bang bang bang! The strong wind pressure directly blew Marin Fando into ruins. The huge naval headquarters, now there is only bare land left. At this time, Blackbeard also fell to the ground. The skin is in intimate contact with the ground. Blackbeard's body, rubbed bloody. After sliding for nearly meters, it barely stopped. Nearly dying. At this time, the entire Marin Vanduo was unprecedentedly quiet. Especially Esdeath and Unohanaretsu. They were still enjoying the masterpiece they created just now. But immediately after, the power of Suyi's finger made them freeze in place for an instant. Because the terrifying wind pressure just now crushed and passed in front of them. From this, they felt an unparalleled terrifying power. Esdeath's body was trembling constantly. It was a feeling she had never felt before. And Ujawali's catkin was also tightly held on the hilt of the sword, as if trying to suppress the panic in his heart. The power just now was not aimed at them. But they still felt the terrifying despair from it. At this moment, the two women turned their heads to look at Suyi beside him. They said in unison, "Okay, so strong. Is this the power of the leader Suyi?" But never thought that Suyi's voice sounded slowly at this time. I only heard him say to Whitebeard, "Whitebeard, don't worry, there are a lot of damages, but I have recovered almost all of my strength. He will never die. I am still very confident in my power control." However, no one responded to Suyi's words. At this moment, they only feel that the man in front of them is the real terror. The wind pressure alone crushed the soldiers into blood foam. It also scraped the Marin Vanduo, which was built by the Navy with a huge sum of money, into dust and directly became ruins. But the Blackbeard who directly endured this terrifying force did not die. This kind of extreme strength control is the real horror of this guy. Even, they think, as long as this guy is willing. Is it possible to fight against mountains? The cow is fine, but the whole island exploded. I don't know how long it took, and the Warring States period finally reflected it. He clenched his fists as he watched the Navy lose so much. He gritted his teeth tightly. In any case, it cannot continue. Otherwise, the Navy will completely lose its prestige in this sea. As the Marshal, he would never allow this to happen. But now, the only way to save face a little is to put Ace to death. I only heard Zhang Guo say at this time, execution. Chapter 31. Execution. The voice of the Warring States period resounded in everyone's ears. They finally came to their senses. There is another battle between the Navy and the pirates. It's just that no one dared to fight around Su Yi. Su Yi also knew about Whitebeard's current situation. Immediately, he said to Ujawali who had just come to him, Ujawali, can Whitebeard's injury be healed? On Ujawali's peaceful face, there was another moment of surprise. You seem to know me very well. Of course, as the group leader, I have to know every group member very well. Su Yi said again. So, Whitebeard will trouble you. Ujawali nodded slightly, only to see that she pulled out her Zanpakuto, and immediately turned into a meat scorpion. Ryu Shizuku slowly opened his mouth, ready to swallow Whitebeard into his stomach. Shizuku's body can heal serious injuries, even hidden injuries can be healed slowly, but the time varies from person to person. Whitebeard nodded solemnly. If it can be treated, why doesn't he want to continue to live? After all, before he knew it, he already had many bonds. Whether it's his own sons or the members of the chat group, they are all existences that Whitebeard can never give up. Whitebeard took a deep breath, and said to Su Yi, I'm counting on you, Ace. Su Yi nodded slightly, and at the same time glanced at the execution platform next to him. The executioner had already raised his blade high. Don't worry, Whitebeard, nothing will happen to Ace and your sons. With Su Yi's guarantee, Whitebeard slowly closed his eyes, and was directly swallowed by the meaty Shizuku. And at the moment when Whitebeard was swallowed into Shizuku's belly, Su Yi stretched out his hand and pointed it in the direction of the execution platform. At this moment, the executioner's sword could completely decapitate Ace by a hair's breadth. But at this moment, I only heard Su Yi say slowly, Wanxiang Tianyan. Following Su Yi's voice fell. Just looking at the weapon in the hands of the Navy soldier, he dropped it instantly and flew towards Su Yi. Even the executioner who was farthest away was attracted by Su Yi with the beheading knife in his hand. This was when Su Yi was fighting Magneto in the Marvel world. One of the abilities awakened through Supreme Doomsday after being killed by Magneto 3 times. Its ability and characteristics are exactly the same as Vientian Sky Yin in Naruto world. That's why Su Yi has always called this ability that way. The alternate General Momotu, who was not far from the execution platform, also felt the movement of his sword, Kimpiro. A flash of disbelief flashed in the beautiful eyes. Immediately, he took control of his own knife. On the other side, Hawkeye, one of the 7 Marshalseas, also felt the movement of his black sword. It seems that there is a strong attraction, attracting Haidao, moving towards Su Yi. Not only knives, but also all kinds of guns, cannons and other weapons, all gathered in front of Su Yi under Su Yi's omnipresent sky. Everyone can only see the weapons all over the sky, gathering at a fast speed. Standing next to Su Yi, or at the bottom, may not have a particularly strong shocking effect. But Sengoku, Garp, or Ace standing on the execution platform. They look down from a height. I just feel that the figure below is completely covered by these weapons, and it is almost invisible. Just like the return of 10,000 swords to the sect, the mighty impact on everyone's eyes. What I heard in my ears was the swipe sound of weapons rubbing against the air. Weapons continuously condense in front of Su Yi. Under Su Yi's control, these weapons were continuously compressed and entwined. Thousands of tons of weapons, entangled with each other, under the gaze of everyone. These weapons were all twisted into a sword by Su Yi. Logically speaking, no matter how compressed a weapon weighing tens of thousands of tons is, it is absolutely impossible to compress it into the shape of a sword. But Su Yi's, Wanxiang Tianyan, was awakened after being killed by Magneto. You must know that Magneto's ability can already be extended to the atomic level. This stands for Magneto, capable of manipulating chemical structures and transforming matter. So Su Yi's Vientian Sky Yin can also do this. Even if Su Yi is willing, he can directly use the Vientian Sky Yin to directly draw the air out of the battlefield. At that time, the souls of all creatures that need oxygen will spiral directly into the sky. It's just that if you do this, there are too many targets to capture. It's really too troublesome, so Su Yi generally never uses it. At this time, the Navy, pirates, Chihuahai, or other forces can be said to be silent. They didn't know that Su Yi not only released water, but also released a piece of sea. But they didn't dare to imagine the ability that Su Yi displayed. Before they came back to their senses, under their watchful eyes, Su Yi cancelled Wanxiang Tianyan. I saw that the sword suspended in the air was inserted straight into the ground, leaving only a hilt exposed. It seems that the ground that has been specially hardened by Marin Vanduo can't stop the sharpness of this sword at all. Hawkeye in the distance, seeing this scene, swallowed subconsciously. You know, this is just a vertical drop, no one uses it. If this sword is used by others, it will definitely exist like a divine weapon. Just the terrifying weight alone already surpassed the existence of the 12 craftsmen of the Supreme Quick Saber. Of course, this also becomes a limitation. It is a kind of sword in the stone. At this point, there was no more fighting on the battlefield. They all looked at Su Yi. Zhongguo felt even more palpitating, thinking of the original self who looked down on Su Yi and the others completely. So far, Su Yi has changed the battlefield with just one person. Less than 10 minutes have passed. Warring States even felt that if Su Yi was willing, he must be able to easily kill all of them. Why is there such a terrifying person in this world? Sengoku roared in his heart. And at this moment, Su Yi slowly walked towards Ace. Every time they took a step, the hearts of all the Marines seemed to be crushed by a stone. Along the way, no one dared to say a word. Su Yi continued to move forward. One by one, very familiar figures in his mind were reflected in Su Yi's eyes. Sand Crocodile, Amayasha Doflamingo, Hexia Jinpei, Empress Boya Hancock and so on. Especially when he saw Boya Hancock, Su Yi was really amazed. I have to say, the Empress is still very beautiful. If possible, Su Yi would like to remind the Empress that when she meets a second idiot named Lu Fei in the future, she must be as far away as possible. It's just that now Su Yi has to pretend to be an expert. There was no expression on his face. Under everyone's gaze, Su Yi slowly came under the execution platform, and then his eyes gathered red light. Heat rays. I saw Su Yi's eyes glanced under the execution platform for a few times. The execution platform collapsed in an instant. And Ace also fell from above. The execution platform collapsed. Gritting his teeth tightly, Zhongguo glared at Su Yi below. Immediately cast moon steps with others and dispersed towards other locations. Only Ace fell straight to the ground. Just in the nick of time. Su Yi took a step to the side, narrowly dodging Ace who fell from the sky. I almost got hit, it's so dangerous. If it's a girl, Su Yi doesn't mind letting her fall safely. But Ace is a man, and a criminal who spent days in a deep-sea prison. It stinks all over. He didn't want to touch Ace even once. When the time comes to wait for the task to be completed, he has to go back and hug his Hela. I don't want to get it on my body, what a messy smell. Just when Su Yi was thinking this way, Ace also got up from the ground. Not much to say. Su Yi had finished what needed to be done, so he walked towards Whitebeard. Watching the backs of Su Yi and Ace leaving, Carp said to Sengoku next to him, "Sengoku, don't we stop them?" Although Carp said so, his heart was full of joy. Ace was able to be rescued, but he was rescued by such a powerful person. His heart that had been hanging all this time was finally able to let go. Warring States naturally also knew Carp's thoughts. If it was normal, for the sake of righteousness, he would definitely do everything to keep Ace. But now, Su Yi's powerful strength has completely shattered the self-confidence of the warring states period. There is no need to fight at all. Esdeath, Ujihuali and Su Yi, the three of them are definitely the existence of the four emperors. Especially that Su Yi was extremely terrifying. I'm afraid that even the four emperors are not Su Yi's opponent. After sailing on the sea for so many years, and at the same time as the admiral of the navy, warring states is still very confident in the estimation of strength. And it was precisely because of this self-confidence that he didn't dare to continue fighting at all. Therefore, Zhongguo could only say in a deep voice, "No, this time's plan has failed. Warring states, with your appearance, do you still deserve to be called the admiral of the navy? We were optimistic about your ability at the beginning. But now, a little setback will knock you down. HMPH, what's the use of you? Warring states, you really let us down. Wait for this incident to end, and you won't have to sit down as marshal." 5 voices came from a distance. The arrogance in these words can be heard by anyone. When Zhongguo and the others heard these words, Chi-Chi's expression changed. Immediately turned around and looked behind him. I saw 5 elderly males flying towards them from the Holy Land of Marioa, stepping on moon steps. Behind these 5 old men, there are 10 people wearing masks and white robes, following behind them. Seeing the scene in front of him, Zhongguo subconsciously said, "Wulooxing. CP0. Why are they here?" When Garp saw this, his heart sank suddenly. "It seems that I can't be kind. Yo, it seems that this time we can't fish in troubled waters." Huang Yuan murmured, but the expression on his face looked like he deserved a beating. At this time, Crane also sighed. "Hey, it seems that many people will die in the war again. It is different from the Dove faction of the Warring States period, and the Salted Fish neutral faction of the Yellow Ape." After seeing Wulooxing and CP0 making such a high-profile appearance, the other soldiers only felt that they had a backer. 5 old stars. The supreme leader of the world ZF. He is the pillar of the world ZF, his status is higher than that of the commander-in-chief of the whole army. Everyone's strength can be said to be mysterious. CP0. It belongs to the top-secret intelligence agency directly under the world government. Known as the strongest shield of the Tianlongren. It has absorbed many world powerhouses. When they came out, the whole navy cheered, shouting the words, 5 old stars, and CP0. On the other hand, on the side of the Whitebeard pirates, every pirate's face is full of vigilance and embarrassment. If these guys come out later, they will be able to retreat directly. After all, Ace has been rescued. But now, it seems that it is impossible to retreat easily. Thinking of this, they set their eyes on Su Yi. Now Whitebeard is gone. Su Yi is their backbone. Su Yi heard the noise of the navy behind him. He casually rubbed his ears and said, "Ah, it's really noisy." After all, Su Yi brought Ace to Margao, who was next to him. Then he looked at Ujihuali in front of him, and said, "How is Whitebeard's recovery?" Whitebeard's internal injuries are too serious, so it will take a while. Maojawali no longer dared to underestimate Su Yi in front of him. With just one blow just now, she was able to keenly perceive that the difference between her own strength and Su Yi's was really too big. Not only Yoruichi, but even Esdeath feels this way. I remember Whitebeard said that if you want to kill Blackbeard himself, then don't retreat, and continue to play with them for a while. And as Su Yi's words fell, a serious look flashed in his eyes. He has long heard that Wulooxing and CP0 are extremely powerful. It would be the best if they could kill themselves once. Thinking of this, Su Yi turned to look at Wulooxing, and said again, "Just watch the show here, and leave the rest to me." But they are 5 old stars. Yeah, although we know you are very strong. But the strength of Wulooxing should not be underestimated. In case you are injured, we don't know how to explain it when the old man comes out. Why don't we escape from here as fast as we can? Margao frowned when he saw that Su Yi was going to challenge the 5 old stars and 10 CP0s by himself. Hurry up and persuade Su Yi with the people next to him. Regarding this, Su Yi said, "Escape. In my dictionary, there is no such a word, and I promised Whitebeard that he would personally deal with Blackbeard. What to do if you play to death?" Su Yi said again. "Besides, why don't you play with such an exciting thing for a while longer?" Everyone in the chat group heard Su Yi's words. They all complained. Yuki Asuna. Why do I feel that Suyi just wants to play? Edward Elric. I also have this feeling. It seems that the stronger the person, the happier the group leader. I don't know why. CC. Maybe it's because a stronger person can make Suyi beat him up a little longer. Edward Elric. This explanation leaves me speechless. Hinata. As long as brother Suyi is happy, Hinata will be happy. CC. Yes, I know Hinata likes Suyi the most. Yuki Asuna. When Hinata grows up, do you want to marry Suyi? Hinata. I. Slipped away. Shame. JPG. The members of the chat group laughed happily when they saw that Hinata was so shy that she slipped away. As for Suyi, they weren't worried at all. Because no one can defeat Suyi. Marin Vando. At this time, the ground was devastated. With an expectant smile on Suyi's face, he walked towards Wulaoxing and CP0. Seeing that Suyi is so arrogant, he even intends to challenge the 5 old stars and CP0 with his own power, it's not too funny. Standing on a high for too long. Wulaoxing has long forgotten what fear is. They landed in front of the warring states, 5 old men lined up, each of them moved differently. Judging by Suyi's vision, they seem to be posing here. I only heard one of the 5 old stars say, I know that your strength is still very good. If you are willing to join CP0, we are willing to promise you 3 conditions. After the words fell, another Wulaoxing said, if you disagree, you have to face not only our Wulaoxing, but also these 10 strong men from CP0. Another Wulaoxing followed this sentence and said, I don't know what you think. Wulaoxing's words were quite clear. Everyone present could hear it clearly. Margao and the others felt even more tense. They didn't know Suyi well, they only knew that this was their father, who was called a family-like existence. But now, facing the solicitation of the supreme ruler of this world. Can Suyi really do it without the slightest wavering? If Suyi is willing to join CP0, then it doesn't matter whether it is for Margao or for Dad. Undoubtedly a catastrophe. And just when Margao thought of this, Suyi, who was walking towards Wulaoxing not far away, said slowly, then what is the strength of the CP0 you mentioned in the battle? Margao's heart sank suddenly. No way, is it possible that this man is really interested in CP0? Wulaoxing obviously didn't expect that Suyi would be so knowledgeable about current affairs, showing an appearance of being very interested in CP0. Immediately, a little contempt appeared in the eyes of the 5 old stars and the others. Sure enough, in this world, no one can refuse their solicitation. I only heard Wulaoxing say at this time, CP0 is the greatest espionage agency in the world, they are called the Shields of the Celestial Dragons. Directly under the transfer of the Celestial Dragons, and they are used to protect the great Celestial Dragons on weekdays. People's safety is the paramount job. One of them was wearing a black suit, with white curly hair, a fluffy white beard, a flat cap, and a scar on his left face. He stretched out his hands, and when he said the word Tianlongren, his eyes were full of admiration. Shield of the Celestial Dragon. When Boa Hancock, one of the 7 Martial Seas Empress, heard these words, her beautiful eyes sank. Her gaze was on Suyi, who was not far away, and her pair of catkins couldn't help but clenched tightly. If the man in front of him really wants to join CP0 and become a lackey of Tianlong people, Boa Hancock really can't imagine what the world will be like. Perhaps in this world, no one would dare to offend the Tianlongren. May I ask, how many guys who offended the Tianlong people can escape Suyi's pursuit? But just when Boa Hancock also felt that Suyi might not refuse, Suyi moved his wrist and ankle slightly. In other words, CP0 is the dog of the Celestial Dragons, right? Then you say, if I kill all the Celestial Dragons, will you become stronger because of anger? Suyi's question stunned everyone present. What brain circuit is this? This made them unable to turn around for a while. Wulaoxing also sensed Suyi's thoughts, and they subconsciously asked, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? You'll know right away. Following Suyi's words, he slowly stretched out his palm. At this moment, CP0 is simultaneously ready for defense. But never thought that Suyi's goal is not the CP0 in front of him. But, I saw a small black ball condensed in Suyi's palm. Then Suyi raised his arm high. The little ball flew into the sky at an extremely fast speed. What the hell is this guy doing? In Boa Hancock's beautiful eyes, there was a strong curiosity. From just now, Su Yi's every move has constantly caught her attention. Next second, Boa Hancock's beautiful eyes shrank suddenly. The whole person took a step back subconsciously. I saw the small black ball above the sky, which seemed to have great suction. In the sky, more than 10 meteorites appeared unexpectedly. With the small black ball as the center, they intertwine, squeeze, and fuse with each other. In the end, a huge and terrifying meteorite was formed, and it fell towards the Holy Land Marijoya behind Marin Vanduo. The huge meteorite has a radius of nearly meters. Falling fast, rubbing against the air. A layer of anger formed on the surface. The horror of its power and influence can be clearly perceived even by everyone on the battlefield of Marin Fando. When Boa Hancock saw this scene, his mind was in turmoil. She did not expect that Su Yi in front of her would be so handsome. Not only did he not agree to Wu Laoxing's wooing, but he even used such terrifying power to approach Tianlongren's hometown. She had never seen such an attractive man. For some reason, Boa Hancock only felt that his heart was moving. The whole person seemed to be paralyzed, looking at Su Yi in front of him with admiration. When Wu Laoxing and CP0 saw Su Yi using such an ability, they immediately questioned, "What kind of ability is this? What exactly do you want to do? Hurry up and stop." Hearing Wu Laoxing's anxious words, Su Yikai would not tell them that this is one of the abilities he awakened when he was fighting against Magneto King, an alternative variant of Wanxiang Tianyan, meteorite falling from the sky. When fighting Magneto, he died a total of 3 times. It was the first time to awaken Vientian Sky Yin. The second awakening is the meteorite falling from the sky. The magnetic field has been awakened for the 3rd time. And what he used this time was the meteorite falling from the sky. Su Yi raised his eyebrows, and looked at CP0 and Wu Laoxing in front of him playfully. This meteorite is still about 30 seconds away from landing in the Holy Land of Marijoya. As long as you kill me within these 30 seconds, this meteorite will die automatically. So you still have 26 seconds left. Ruthless. Too bad. Everyone present felt that Su Yi in front of him was simply a ruthless person. This is forcing Wu Laoxing and CP0 to kill him as quickly as possible. Wu Laoxing's face became very ugly. Originally they didn't want to make a move, but this time the matter was of great importance. If this meteorite were to fall on the Holy Land of Marijoya, it would be their dereliction of duty. This absolutely cannot happen. 20 seconds. 20 seconds for you guys. Kill this guy in front of you. Yes. After hearing Wu Laoxing's order, CP0 rushed towards Su Yi at an incomparably terrifying speed in the blink of an eye. Wu Laoxing didn't stand there either, but followed closely behind, completely surrounding Su Yi from 5 directions respectively. 20 seconds. They only have 20 seconds. Otherwise, the huge meteorite in the sky will fall to the Holy Land of Marijoya. It will definitely hurt their family. They will never allow this to happen. As a CP0 who was cultivated by Tianlong people since childhood, this kind of thinking has been imprinted in their bones. Therefore, at this moment, they all erupted with unprecedented strength. CP0-1 clasped his hands together, and with the sound of the sound, circles of light appeared among the other 9 CP0 members. With the appearance of the aperture, Su Yi could clearly feel that the aura of these people in front of him had suddenly risen several steps. If Su Yi's guess is correct, this person should be a person with the ability to increase the fruit, which can slightly improve the abilities of other people. Just as Su thought of this, he saw CP0-1 patted his hand again. Snapped. I saw the halos on these CP0 members completely integrated into their bodies. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of their hearts beating is clearly visible at this moment, like drums beating. The whole body is elevated by several meters. When Margao saw the scene in front of him, he was even more shocked and said, This is the fruit awakened. Although the pirates like Margao have heard of the existence of CP0 to some extent. But it was the first time I saw a CP0 battle. They didn't expect that the first CP0 to take the shot was the awakened fruit ability. Zai Doflamingo, who was a former celestial dragon, didn't seem to be shocked at all when he saw this scene. Fu, it looks like the fun has just begun. His eyes were hidden under the orange-red glasses, and his whole expression looked abnormally wretched. It seems to be to confirm Doflamingo's words. I only saw these CP0 members, and they showed their housekeeping skills one after another. A large number of fire clouds emerged from CP02's body. The fire clouds affected the surrounding environment, drove the surrounding ground, and turned into thick fire clouds, slowly covering Suyi. This is the awakened ability user of the Natural Department Fire Cloud Fruit. Immediately afterwards, CP03's cheeks bulged greatly, and countless gusts of wind spewed out from its mouth. Fire by the wind, complement each other. The power suddenly increased a lot. This is the ability awakener in the form of animal, phantom beast, toad fruit, and three-legged golden toad. CP0 to 4 also cooperated at this time, and he threw his hands out. At this moment, the hands turned into two big snakes, winding towards Suyi. It is even more domineering with a jet black armed color attached to it. The big snake wrapped around Suyi's body tightly, and the snake's head firmly bit Suyi's shoulder, holding Suyi in place. This is the ability awakener in the form of animal, phantom beast, snake fruit, and Yamada no Orochi. CP0 to 5 is a Superman with the ability to transform fruit. CP0 to 6 is the ability user of the superhuman series of poisonous mist fruit. CP0 to 7 is an ability user in the form of animal, ancient species, cat fruit, and giant saber-toothed tiger. CP0 to 8 is a superhuman power fruit ability user. CP0 to 9 is a Superman with the ability to perceive fruit. It can connect the perception of 10 CP0 members together, greatly increasing the ability of perception. CP0 to 10 are superhumans with the ability to suffer fruit, which can make people feel pain. Although it will not cause any harm, it will affect the brain and reduce the opponent's combat effectiveness. Each of the 10 members used all their strengths in order to defeat the man in front of them. Suyi was surrounded by numerous attacks. Marco looked anxiously at everything in front of him. That guy, are you really all right? Ujawali heard Margau's words and immediately said, it must be fine, because he is our group leader. Esdeath, the group leader, yes, he is our group leader. So, he will be fine. The two women have completely recognized Su's position as the leader of the group. Although Margau doesn't know what the two women mean by the leader of the group. But with their words, everyone felt a little calmer. He turned his gaze back to the front. The fruit abilities of all CP0 members can cooperate with each other. I think this is why they are so powerful. Of course, one of the main reasons is that they have all developed their fruit abilities to the point of awakening. You must know that every fruit awakening ability thrower thrown into this sea is an existence that can become the overlord of one side. But such a dominator level existence is nothing more than a lackey of the Tianlong people. In fact, it's ridiculous to think about it. Suyi looked at the 10 CP0s in front of him, and raised his mouth slightly. Hey. Do you only have this strength? It's been 10 seconds. If you don't kill me, those Tianlong people will probably die immediately. When Wu Laoxing heard Suyi's words, his heart sank even more. We're going to let this guy know how powerful our 5 old stars are. Guy, how dare you look down on our 5 elders? Watch how I torture and kill him. Let's go. Look at the trick. I will let you feel the most painful way of death in this world. As Wu Laoxing's voice fell, they rushed towards Suyi, who was trapped in the center. At this time, everyone's pupils shrank suddenly. This was the first time they saw Wu Laoxing make a move. And still cooperate with CP0 to shoot together. If you want to come to this power, even if you are facing many 4 emperors, it can be said to be a piece of cake. Maybe this is why the world ZF can stand tall in this world. The root cause is that these guys are really too strong. Boom, rumble. I only heard a deafening voice, echoing in the ears of everyone. The smoke that covered the sky and the sun rose out of nowhere. Everyone has no way to see what happened in the center of the battlefield. The only thing that makes people feel puzzled is, in the current smoke, there is not the slightest sound of fighting. Even the sound of the wind and fire is gone. What exactly is going on? Is there a way to disperse the smoke? The smoke completely obscures our view. What happened to that man? Don't be defeated. Hearing the voices of the pirates next to her, Uji Huliu stretched out her green fingers, only to hear her softly say, one of the broken ways, rush. As Ujiwaretsu's voice fell, there was an extra shock on her fingertips. This impact stirred the air, turning into countless breezes. In the blink of an eye, the smoke and dust were completely dispelled. And as the smoke was completely dispelled, everyone's pupils suddenly shrank. The huge smoke is dissipating rapidly. As the smoke dissipated, both the Navy and the pirates saw a terrifying scene. Especially Zongguo and others, as if they were frightened, their bodies kept shaking there. His face was ashen, and his expression was full of disbelief. Even those Navy soldiers didn't even dare to vent their breath. They all froze in place, unable to accept this cruel fact. As for the pirates, these pirates headed by Marco. It's almost the same as the expression of the Warring States period. But compared to the panic over the Navy, they are just shocked. Seeing CP0 and Wu Laoxing lying on the ground miserable, they roared excitedly. Even, the voice of the Navy is much louder than when Wu Laoxing and CP0 appeared on the stage. At this moment, Margao and the others are as happy as they can be. The previous gloom was swept away. Feel more relaxed than ever. The center of the battlefield. Su Yi clapped his hands casually, as if he was shaking off the dust that didn't exist. He looked at Wu Laoxing, who was dying in front of him, and said softly, should I say that you are worthy of being Wu Laoxing? Your strength is not bad, and you can actually withstand my finger-snapping magic. The so-called magical skill of flicking fingers is nothing more than a joking name for the power that Su Yi pops out at will. He seemed to have sensed the banter in Su Yi's words. The old man with long white hair said slowly, Yi, Master Yim will definitely not spare you. Yes, I wish he would come and kill me now. Speaking of which, the meteorite should be falling soon. As soon as Su finished speaking, he turned around and looked at the falling meteorite. Just when the meteorite was about to hit it, several terrifying slashes of about meters were slashed from a palace in the Holy Land of Meteorite, fiercely rushing towards the meteorite falling from the sky. Dao slashes, it can be said to block out the sky and block out the sun. Hawkeye was even more shocked when he saw this scene. A meter giant slash, it was actually able to swing several times in succession. Even Hawkeye's pupils couldn't help showing a little bit of astonishment. Hawkeye is known as the world's #1 swordsman. As the so-called layman watches the fun, the expert watches the doorway. As a man who was close to the peak of the sword, he couldn't help being shocked when he saw such a terrifying slash. Kaila. Taoist sword chi slashed across the falling meteorite with ease. Cut the meteorite into dozens of pieces. The cut meteorite fell straight into the sea. It is worthy to protect the Holy Land Meteorite. And the 5 old stars on the ground, when they saw the scene in front of them. Immediately, he burst into laughter. Ha! This is Yi, Master Yimu's method. Master Yimu made a move. Oh, and then, Su Yi said lightly. The 5 old stars were seriously injured on the ground. Looking at Su Yi in front of them, their mouths were stiff, and they said, you absolutely cannot be the opponent of Lord I Am. Lord I Am is the most powerful existence in the world. Oh, and then, Su Yi said to Wu Laoxing very much that he deserved a beating. The 5 old men, Wu Laoxing, after hearing Su Yi's words. I just feel angry, but for those who have been seriously injured, it is very difficult for them to speak or even lift a finger. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Su Yi said to them, since Lord Yimu is so powerful in your eyes, then I will pull him down from the altar. As Su Yi's words fell, a small black ball was once again condensed in his hand. I saw Su Yi throwing the little black ball directly into the sky. This is not over yet. Su Yi condensed another small black ball and threw it into the sky again. One after another black balls were condensed in the palm of Su Yi, and then thrown into the sky. When everyone saw this scene, they felt that their hearts were numb. They stared blankly at the little black balls, which were sent to the sky by Su Yi. Then several meteorites were summoned, fused with each other, and fell from the sky. In the blink of an eye, nearly 100 meteorites, large and small, nearly meters in size, appeared in the sky. The meteorite turned into a group of meteorites and fell from the sky. The flames wrapped around the meteorites, adding a little power to them. With a destructive momentum, it fell from the sky towards the Holy Land Meteorite. After finishing all this, Su Yi stretched his arm and said softly, I don't know if the Lord I am you are talking about is satisfied with the gift I gave him. There was no answer to Su Yi's words. Wu Laoxing and the other 5 old men all stared at the scene in front of them in astonishment. They didn't dare to imagine that Su Yi's release of this skill was like a joke. Is this guy really from this world? Otherwise, why is it so powerful that it has never been famous? Just when they were shocked, the holy land of Mary Joa once again bloomed, one after another extremely gorgeous sword energy. The sword energy is so terrifying. Every slash of sword energy spans tens of thousands of meters. The extremely sharp sword energy slashed against the menacing meteorite group one after another. Scoff, scoff, scoff. The entire sky became extremely dark. It seems that in the whole world, there are only meteorites and this terrifying sword slash. However, they were keenly aware of the speed at which these sword slashes appeared. It seems to get slower and slower as time goes by. It wasn't until later, or even more than 10 seconds, that he was able to swing a meter sword energy. Everyone knew that the master who swung his sword energy and slashed was almost exhausted. Because of this, the Holy Land of Marioa was also attacked by a small number of meteorite fragments. Potholes were smashed out on the top. Many Tianlong people even died because of this. Empress Boya Hancock looked excitedly at everything in front of her. This man is really strong. And so handsome. It's over, this feeling. Could it be the feeling of being in love? Empress Boya Hancock's heart beat even more violently. A pair of beautiful eyes stared at Su Yi, his glamorous cheeks were already blushing. At this moment, Ujawali's voice reached Su Yi's ears. Su Yi, Whitebeard's body has completely recovered. As Hana Retsu's voice fell, her Zanpakuto returned to the scabbard. And the figure of the Whitebeard came into everyone's eyes again. The Whitebeard without the slightest scar on his body, and the gloomy lifeless look on his face. The whole person seemed to be exuding vitality, and the spirit had undergone unprecedented changes. Margao saw the Whitebeard in front of him, and immediately said, "Father, how do you feel now?" Whitebeard moved his body a little bit, and that almost full-bodied feeling lingered in Whitebeard's body. Powerful power filled Whitebeard's body. No matter what kind of injury, or hidden injury, it has all disappeared. Gu la 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 la, this feeling is really great. I feel like I have completely recovered. After finishing speaking, Whitebeard noticed Su Yi beside him. Immediately said to Su Yi, "Su Yi, let me help you." Before Whitebeard finished speaking, he froze. Whitebeard rubbed his eyes subconsciously, and fixed his eyes on the few people lying beside Su Yi. Then, his pupils shrank suddenly, his brows raised, and he took a deep breath. Whitebeard naturally recognized the 5 old stars next to Su Yi. Originally, he planned to help Su Yi fight together. But judging from the current situation, let alone fighting, the 5 old stars of ZF in the world were all stepped on the ground after being defeated by Su Yi. Should it be said that it is the leader of the group, Su Yi? Take time to recover your body. He has already cleared the customs here. It seems that I must become stronger. Whitebeard, what did you want to say just now? Su Yi turned to look at Whitebeard, and said to Whitebeard curiously. No, it's okay, just go ahead. The corner of Whitebeard's mouth twitched subconsciously. Oh, okay, but I'm a little tired of playing. Blackbeard is in that position. After you finish him, you can evacuate, and our mission will probably be completed by then. Okay, I'm going to settle accounts with Blackbeard. The body basically recovered, so much so that Whitebeard's mentality is much younger. The whole person walks like a tiger. There is no sense of twilight at all. Only Su Yi murmured, "Looks like it's time to end this farce." In a pothole on the edge of Marlin Fando, a long bloodstain continued to extend outward from the pit. Blackbeard dragged his nearly shattered bones, and struggled to crawl towards the distance. He must escape. He must escape. When Blackbeard thought of that monster Su Yi, he felt terrified. The original conceit and pride completely disappeared at this moment. That is, because of his special constitution, he was able to wake up from a coma. Although most of his bones were crushed. But Blackbeard is still like a bug, constantly wriggling forward. Almost. Not far. You can hide it on the boat. Just give me a little more time. Blackbeard roared frantically in his heart. But at this moment, heavy footsteps came from behind him. The sound of these footsteps was extremely familiar to Blackbeard. It was the sound of Whitebeard walking. No way. But how is this possible? Isn't Whitebeard seriously injured? Blackbeard wanted to turn around to confirm, but the intense pain made it impossible for him to turn around easily. It can only squirm towards the distance at a faster speed. Try to get out of this ghost place as soon as possible. Tiki, where are you going? Whitebeard's voice reached Blackbeard's ears. Blackbeard's face, which had lost too much blood, became even paler now. No, please forgive me. Dad, I really know I was wrong. Cough, cough, cough. Blackbeard lay on the ground, constantly begging for mercy to Whitebeard behind him. When Blackbeard was speaking, countless blood spurted out from his mouth. It can be said to be extremely miserable. However, Whitebeard will never forgive Blackbeard. Tichi, you broke the iron rules I set. Killed my son, I will never forgive you. After a pause, Whitebeard said again, so, please die where you are. As Whitebeard's voice fell, one could see that Whitebeard's fist was condensed with the ability of shaking fruit. The strong shock force formed a white circle on Whitebeard's fist. No, don't, Dad, I really know I was wrong. Please don't kill me. When Blackbeard said the last thing, he almost roared. It's just that these words of begging for mercy fell into the ears of Whitebeard, which only made Whitebeard more disgusting. Blackbeard's words were ignored. Without hesitation, Whitebeard slammed his fist on Blackbeard's head. Boom! Whitebeard, who had almost recovered to his peak, was using his own powerful power. The moment his fist touched Blackbeard, he directly announced the coolness of Blackbeard. Blackbeard didn't even make a scream, but was beaten to a pulp by Whitebeard's punch. At the same time, the electronic sound of the chat group also sounded in the minds of Suyi, Esdeath, and Unohanaeri. Ding! Congratulations to the three of them for completing the task, each of them will get 1,000 points. Then, in Suyi's mind, an electronic sound rang out. Ding! Group leader Suyi completed the mission of calling for help and received a reward, superhuman phantom fruit. This fruit has no side effects, and its ability needs to be developed and used by the group owner himself. After checking the phantom fruit, Whitebeard also returned to the boat from a distance. Immediately, Whitebeard announced the start of evacuation. As for the rest of Marin Fanduo, after seeing this scene, they all breathed a sigh of relief. At least Suyi, the god of killing, finally left Marin Fando. Is it just that simple? Whitebeard's ship, in Suyi's hand, was continuously condensing a black ball. This round ball is different from the small ball released by Suyi before. This black ball is bigger than Sus Flap or two combined. Whitebeard looked at Suyi's movements and asked, Suyi, what is this thing in your hand? As Whitebeard's voice fell, the other pirates on the boat also pricked up their ears, listening carefully to Suyi's words. Regarding the various abilities Suyi displayed, everyone was already a little shocked to the point of numbness. Therefore, they were no longer surprised by the things in Suyi's hands at this time. On the contrary, they are more curious what kind of fruit ability Suyi is. Hearing Whitebeard's words, Suyi said lightly, to those world nobles who are extremely proud, a gift that only they can bear. The voice fell. Suyi stopped what he was doing. Under everyone's gaze, Suyi raised his arm, and then threw it straight towards the Holy Land Marinjoya. In an instant, countless seawater was absorbed by the black ball. Following the black ball, it continuously flew towards the Holy Land of Marijoa. The seawater attracted is also increasing. The coercion emanating from its black ball is also increasing. Just the terrifying suction in the black ball, it is estimated that when entering Marin Fando, it will completely destroy Marin Fando. No matter what, you can't let this thing fall on Marin Vanduo. Not to mention as, those Navy soldiers are bound to be hurt. It seems that we can only fight to the death. Just when the voice of the Warring States period fell, a very tired figure appeared in front of them. This figure is none other than I Am, who just slashed thousands of sword chi strikes. This is also the first time that I Am has appeared in everyone's field of vision. But it's too late if he doesn't come out. If it doesn't come out again, the entire Marin Fando will be destroyed by this black ball. Because he could feel the terrifying power of destruction from the black ball. Most importantly, this destructive power is getting closer and closer to them. Its aura is also constantly growing. Without any hesitation, IM immediately pulled out his saber, and rushed towards the black ball at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, a little halo spread out from IM's body. The halo protects IM's body 360 degrees without any dead ends. This is impressively one of the 3 ancient weapons, one of the abilities of the Heavenly King. It's also the reason why IM made this choice. But just when IM's figure appeared in front of the black ball, he found that he still underestimated the ball. IM's pupils shrank suddenly. The sword blade that was going to be swung was directly blocked in front of him after IM drew a circle. Next second, boom, the black ball explodes. The terrifying spreading power is mixed with the impact of hundreds of thousands of tons of seawater. Instantly broke through the shield of the King of Heaven. It hit the Heavenly King heavily. Even the sharp sword in IM's hand was directly shattered. A mouthful of blood spat out from IM's mouth. I will never let you go until the day when the Heavenly King really recovers. At this moment, Suyi didn't know the cruel words that IM said. Even if he knew it, he didn't care at all, because he has already returned to his own world at this time. After giving Marlon Vanduo a parting gift, Suyi and the others returned to their own worlds. Inside the car, Suyi's figure reappeared. Hela, who was eating delicious food next to her, glanced at Suyi next to her. Straightforwardly, he handed the delicious food in his hand to Suyi's side. Are you tired? Do you want some food? Su took a look at the delicacy that Hela took a bite of, but he didn't dislike it either. 3 times, 5 divisions and 2 divisions, they finished the food in Hela's hands. Is everything over? Hela said softly to Suyi. Well, it's all done. After receiving Suyi's reply, Hela smiled slightly, with a smile in her eyes. Hela didn't ask too much. Everyone has secrets. As long as Suyi returns safely, in Hela's opinion, it will be a good thing. I don't know when it started, but Hela's thoughts gradually changed a little. Even, Hela planned to wait until she recovered her divine power. She told Suyi her real identity. It's just that every time Hela thinks of this, she only feels a little uneasy in her heart. Because she didn't know whether Suyi would accept himself after knowing his true identity. However, what Hela didn't know was that, as a traveler, Suyi had already guessed Hela's identity easily. Took Hela to play outside for a whole day. At night, Suyi and Hela finally returned to the villa. Lying on the sofa in the living room, Suyi used Hela as a pillow and hugged her in his arms. And Hela took Suyi as her back, snuggling up against Suyi's body. The time is quiet. It feels very laid back. Hela held the snacks and watched the TV in front of her. And Suyi opened the chat group. The most enjoyable water group time of the day began. Suyi. Good afternoon, everyone. Yuki Asuna. Wow, said Sao is here. Yuki Asuna. Tell me, Suyi, are you secretly watching us chatting? Otherwise, why did you suddenly appear when we were talking about you? Suyi. Speaking of me. Yuki Asuna. Yes, talking about you. Do you know that you frightened us when you were live broadcasting in the world with the old man with white beard? CC. I am more and more curious about how far your real strength can reach. Whitebeard. Gu la. I'm afraid Suyi's strength is several times stronger than all of us combined. Edward Elric. It should be said that the group leader deserves to be the group leader. Jawali. I think the strength of the group leader may be comparable to that of our captain. CC. Is the captain of your team really strong? Anahanaratsu. Well, our captain's name is Yamamoto Genryanagi Shigekuni, and his Zanpakudo is said to have the strongest attack power, the highest temperature, and the largest range attack. Esdeath. It does sound exaggerated, but such opponents are interesting. When I become stronger, I will definitely defeat you one by one. Hinata. Ah. JPG. Hinata. I feel like I've worked so hard, but I'm still far behind you. Yuki Asuna. By the way, I remember that the chat group has opened the function of the Point Mall. I just watched the live broadcast before, and I almost forgot about it. After all, Yuki Asuna opened the Point Mall function in the chat group. At the same time, other members, under the reminder of Yuki Asuna, opened this function of the chat group. I saw that a dazzling array of products were reflected in the eyes of everyone. Along with everyone, they opened the Points Mall. Everyone saw a dazzling array of various commodities. Yuki Asuna. My god, the point mall is also good, there are all kinds of props to improve abilities. CC. I didn't expect Gias, even code. Yuki Asuna. I remember you said that you can give Gias to others, right? CC. Yes, I can indeed bestow the abilities of Gias on others. Yuki Asuna. Wow, I don't know why, I just feel like you are a moving treasure trove now. Yuki Asuna. You must know that I saw Gias just now, but it takes 10,000 points to redeem it. Edward Elric. Is it so exaggerated? Then, can we go directly to CC in the future? We can save the 10,000 points. Suyi. However, the Gias with 10,000 points seems to have no side effects. Suyi. Wait a minute, I just saw that in the mall, there is an option to eliminate the side effects of abilities. If you want to eliminate the side effects of Gias, it seems that only 300 points are enough. Whitebeard. If you want to eliminate the side effects of the devil fruit, it seems that you need 450 points. Unojawali. I didn't expect that there are Zanpakuto in the mall, and they are born directly from the soul, and 100% belong to themselves. Esdeath. In addition to my Taigu, there are other Taigu in the mall. Hinata. I saw the forbidden ninjutsu of our Konoha village, and the power of the tailed beast seems to be exchangeable. Many group members, after opening the points mall, just feel more excited as they shop around. GEEAS 10,000 points, no side effect devil fruit 35,000 points, super top no side effect devil fruit 50,000 points, Taigu 35,000 points, super top Zanpakuto 50,000 points, reincarnation eye 60,000 points, Atsuki Kagaya Heim template 100,000 points. And the slightly cheaper ones are Ling Hun Zan Po Dao 1000 Gfen, Shi Jing Fa Sui 1000 Gfen, Xiao Xingping Bai Yi 100 Gfen, Mark 3 Gang Tai Zan Yi 300 Gfen, Ren Gong Ji Nang Jia Wei C 1000 Gfen. After browsing through the product interfaces one by one, everyone is salivating. It's so hungry. To know the good things in it, take out one at random, and it will allow ordinary people to directly enter the domain of superpowers. It's just that the prices of these good things seem to be too exaggerated. Yuki Asuna. I really want to become stronger. But I don't know when I will be able to accumulate enough points. CC. Although I am immortal, I also want to exchange for some interesting abilities. Edward Elric. I saw in it a way to resurrect people. I want to resurrect my mother, and then save my brother. I need points. At this moment, an electronic tone sounded in the chat group. Ding, points leaderboard, number 1. Suyi 1200 points. Number 2. Uno no Hana Lai, Esdeath 1000 points. Number 3. Edward, Whitebeard, CC 100 points. Other members have no points yet. Ding, the level of the chat group is currently level 2, and it takes 3 people to upgrade to level 9. Ding, upgrade to level 3 to open more functions and sources of points. Many members were very excited when they saw the words in the chat group. I can't wait for a newcomer to come immediately and let the chat group score reach level 3. It's just that I can only think about it. After all, Hana and Esdeath had just joined the chat group. I think it will take a while, but there should be no newcomers joining. Yuki Asuna. Should we have an offline party? After all, many of us just know each other, but have never met. CC. I think you want to get close to Suyi. Yuki Asuna. Shut up, you witch. Open your teeth and dance your claws. JPG. Esdeath. It seems that Suyi is still very popular. If that's the case, won't it be awkward for me to like him? Hinata. Brother Suyi is mine. Unojua lie. Yeah, is little sister Hinata jealous? Hinata. Blushing. GIF I don't have it. Anazi Huali. Actually, I'm also very interested in Suyi. Yuki Asuna. It seems that Hinata has many more competitors. CC. I think it's because you're jealous. Yuki Asuna. Shut up, you poisonous witch. Suyi looked at the joyful and lively chatting area, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. After hugging Hela in his arms, he hugged his arms full. Suyi said in the chat group, I'm fine here, it depends on when you have time. Yuki Asuna. I can do it anytime, and I'll just talk to my father when the time comes. CC. Me too, anytime is fine. Edward Elric. I'm just going back to the country for a few days, so I'm free. Yoruichi. I have been staying in the team, and there is nothing going on in Soul World recently, and I have no official duties. Esdeath. No one can stop me wherever I want to go. Whitebeard. Gu la 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 la, I'm completely fine. You know I've been free recently. Suyi. In that case, I will inform everyone in the group tomorrow night, and I will prepare for the rest of the time. After speaking, Suyi slipped out of the chat group. At this time, night has already hung above the sky. Suyi hugged the fragrant Hela, and the breath he exhaled could hit Hela's ear. Hela, I plan to hold a party in the villa tomorrow, do you want to attend? Hela leaned against Suyi's arms. He stared at the TV in front of him. Is there anything delicious? Of course, then I will participate. Ha 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 ha, Hela, do you know that you are a snack now? HMPH, that's what you dote on too. Hela said triumphantly. However, it was limited to Suyi alone. In front of other people, she would still be the glamorous and arrogant goddess of death Hela. Just as Suyi and Hela were chatting, the doorbell rang at the gate of the villa. Suyi pressed the remote control. Suddenly, Tony Stark appeared on the TV. Strange, what did Tony Stark come to see me for so late? Suyi murmured. Suddenly he remembered that Tony Stark still owed him a lot. Pinch Hela's pretty face. It's all because you are so charming, I almost forgot about this. Signaled Hela to leave her body. Suyi's figure came to the door. Opened the door for Tony Stark. At the same time, I only heard Suyi say, "Oh, Tony, I am so happy to see you now." The door opens. Suyi said enthusiastically, "Oh, Tony, I am so happy to see you now." Seeing Suyi who was so enthusiastic, Tony Stark took a step back subconsciously. But Suyi enthusiastically pulled him into the room. "Sit down quickly, just treat it as your own home." Tony Stark was dragged to the chair by Suyi. Then I saw Suyi, sitting opposite him, with a smile on his face. "Tell me, Tony, what are you looking for me here?" Tony Stark took a careful look at Suyi. He wanted to make sure if he had found the wrong person. After all, the current Suyi doesn't look like a person at all compared to Gao Leng who fought back then. Because it is too enthusiastic. Still, there are things that need to be said. Otherwise, Tony Stark felt he would have a bad conscience. He, Tony Stark, has never had the habit of owing anyone anything. "Suyi, do you still remember what happened before?" Suyi nodded vigorously, and the smile on his face became even brighter. "I remember, I even broke my Rolls-Royce Cullinan back then." Hela next to him saw Suyi's expression like a money fanatic, and couldn't help but put on a smile on his face. It's just that it quickly converged again. Because apart from Suyi who can see his smile, no one else deserves it at all. Tony Stark's mouth twitched. He really couldn't figure it out. The guy in front of him was a top rich man anyway, why would he care so much about a curry? Can't figure it out. Tony Stark didn't want to think about it either. I only heard Tony Stark say to Suyi, "Suyi, I came here this time to thank you." With that said, Tony Stark took out a contract from his folder. Put it in front of Suyi. This is a contract for the transfer of shares in Stark Industries. Not only Obadiah's, but also my shares. As long as you sign this contract, you will be the largest shareholder of Stark Industries. Ever since Tony Stark admitted he was Iron Man, Tony Stark's shares began to grow explosively. The speed of growth is absolutely astonishing. Even in a short period of time, the value of its shares exceeded trillions. Definitely a money sucker, and after becoming the first shareholder, he can even have control over the company. In Tony Stark's view, no one can refuse this gift. However, the smile on Suyi's face became less and less at this time. Until the end, completely disappeared. Tony Stark's heart sank suddenly. "Why, what's the matter? Are you dissatisfied?" Suyi's eyes just looked at Tony Stark in front of him coldly. I only heard Suyi say at this time, "The value of Stark Industries is indeed very high, but its core is mainly because you are Iron Man. You are the soul of Stark Industries. In other words, as long as you are willing, with your Iron Man name, it is easy to open as many Stark Industries as you want." Tony Stark said to Suyi very seriously, Don't worry Suyi, I will never leave Stark Industries. Is it because you want to get my protection? For example, when facing S.H.I.E.L.D., or when facing alien visitors? Tony Stark's face froze. That's exactly what he thought. Because in his opinion, Suyi is very greedy for money. And the last thing Tony Stark lacks is money. Therefore, he wants to obtain the greatest safety possible before he builds the strongest steel suit. But what he didn't expect was that Suyi could see it so thoroughly. Suyi, what do you mean? Tony Stark said in a deep voice. At this moment, a smile appeared on Suyi's face again. Actually, what I mean is very simple. As the price for my protection of you, I will take all the shares of Stark Industries. At the same time, you will give me a set of steel suits every time you develop it. Until you defeat me, what do you think? Suyi looked at Tony Stark in front of him, with a real smile on his face. Tony Stark never expected that Suyi's appetite would be so big. What do you want these battle suits for? Of course it's a collection. Then what if I refuse? Tony Stark's face darkened. Suyi held his face and just looked at Tony Stark in front of him. Reject it, then reject it. It's not a big deal. At most, when you go out, you are accidentally hit by a car or killed by a meteorite falling from the sky. It may also spontaneously combust out of thin air. Tony Stark's mouth twitched. This is simply the threat of Kai Guago. I knew that I didn't want to think so much. However, Suyi's move made Tony Stark even more determined. We must strive to produce anti-Soviet armor as quickly as possible. He must defeat Suyi in front of him, and then teach him a good lesson. Thinking of this, Tony Stark felt that his mood seemed to be much more comfortable. I agree to your terms. After Tony Stark thought about it again and again, he finally decided to agree. After all, the current Tony Stark is not the self-righteous Tony Stark before. After seeing Suyi's power from S.H.I.E.L.D., he has already planted an idea in his heart, to work hard to become stronger. Compared to Tony Stark in the original book, now he is more aware of what he wants. After adding a few requirements, Suyi signed his name on the contract. Since then, scientific research genius Tony Stark, before he can defeat Suyi, has been completely reduced to Suyi's wage earner. After finishing all this, Suyi sent Tony Stark out of the villa. When leaving, Suyi smiled and said to Iron Man, "Tony, come play again when you have time." Tony Stark's face turned darker when he heard Suyi's words. Tony Stark said viciously in his heart, "Suyi, just wait for me, wait until I develop the anti-Suyi armor one day, and see how I teach you." It's just that Tony Stark is absolutely impossible to think of it no matter what. The reason Suyi did this was to stimulate him. Let him grow up at the fastest speed. After closing the door, Suyi held Hela in his arms again. How about it? I'm not good, and I've made hundreds of billions of small money just by talking about it. Yes, it's great, but I'm curious, considering your strength, money is just something outside of you. Well, it's a small hobby, after all, more money is better, at least you can buy a lot of maid outfits. Hearing about the maid outfit, Hela suddenly remembered the maid outfit that Suyi had bought before, which was full of holes. The glamorous cheeks are suddenly filled with shy rosiness. The next day, Monday, after Suyi had someone deliver a hearty breakfast, he drove towards the school. As a good student, you have to clock in at school every day. As for whether to sleep or study, only Suyi knew it in his heart. After arriving at the school, Suyi sent a text message to Jin. Let him invite the most professional maid to decorate his villa well. Then prepare all kinds of things that the party needs. You know, the members of the chat group are going to come over to have a happy meeting tonight. What should be prepared must be prepared, in order to prevent people from peeping with satellites. Suyi even bought a small shielding device in the Points Mall, which cost Suyi a full 100 points. Thinking of this, Suyi felt a little distressed in his heart. It seems that if I have time in the future, I can go to S.H.I.E.L.D. to play. If Nick Fury knew about Suyi's thoughts, he would definitely scold, "Mommy." Suyi hummed an unknown song and returned to his seat. And at this moment, Hannah, who had come to the class early, immediately moved to Suyi's side. For this situation, everyone is no stranger to it. On the contrary, Hannah didn't come to Suyi's side, that's the really strange thing. Suyi, you finally came to school. Where have you been this week? I miss you so much. Hana was sitting next to Suyi, with a pair of piercing beautiful eyes, just looking at Suyi in front of her. It looks very smart and cute in a blink of an eye. I just went out to eat, and I didn't do anything. For Hana's approach, Suyi has changed from a slight resistance at the beginning to a habit now. It has to be said that no one can resist the law of Junxiang. Hana was sitting next to her, and the catkin unconsciously climbed onto Suyi's arm. Then next time you go out to play, can you take me with you? I can cook something delicious for you. After finishing speaking, Hana took out an insulated lunchbox from her bag as if offering a gift. Opened it in front of Suyi. Seeing the oriental flavor in the lunchbox, Suyi's eyes could not help but light up. I know you are from Longguo, and you may not be used to the school food, so I specially made the delicacies from Longguo. It tastes delicious. Do you want to try it? Suyi looked at the food in the lunchbox. It's been a long time since I stayed with Hela. Suyi is also faintly developing towards foodie. In addition, he hadn't smelled it for a long time, and it came from the rich aroma of Longguo food. Can't help giving Hana a thumbs up. This looks really good. Hana looked at the thumb in front of her, and her face blushed. This was the first time Suyi praised her. Ever since he was rescued by Suyi last time. He never said much to himself. But this time, he gave himself a thumbs up. This is definitely a recognition of her. As long as she persisted, Suyi would definitely be able to accept her. Suyi didn't know what Hana was thinking. He just felt that Hana's craftsmanship was really good. Looking at the delicacies of the Dragon Kingdom in front of him, Suyi couldn't help but think of the party tonight. As if sensing Suyi's expression, Hana couldn't help asking, Suyi, what's wrong? Is there something wrong with me? It's okay, I'm going to hold a party tonight, and I'm wondering whether to invite you over. Hana's eyes lit up when she heard Suyi's words. In Hana's opinion, this is definitely a good thing. This is a great opportunity to get in touch with Suyi. Maybe from now on, she can completely integrate into Suyi's life. At that time, I will be able to take advantage of the situation to confess. Thinking of this, Hana nodded immediately. I have time tonight, I can tell my parents that I will live at the house of a female classmate. Hearing Hana's words, Suyi didn't know what she was thinking. It's just that those guys are a little special, I don't know if you can accept it. Hana shook her head when she heard Suyi's words. She patted her chest confidently, and said, I'm very bold, there's absolutely no problem, and I'm also curious, Suyi, what kind of people your friends are. Suyi narrowed his eyes slightly. A little bad taste suddenly appeared in my heart. Okay, then I'll send someone to pick you up tonight. The smile on Suyi's face was even wider. But this also means that Suyi accepted Hana. Just when Hana was very shy and looking forward to it, imagining what would happen tonight in her mind. Peter Parker took his mobile phone and came to Suyi's side. He exaggeratedly said to Suyi, Suyi, did you know? That green giant appeared again, and not only that, he also started a battle with another giant that looked more ferocious in a shopping mall in Queens. Peter Parker's talkative attributes are undoubtedly revealed at this time. Suyi quickly interrupted Peter Parker's words, okay, I understand, but I believe that the relevant departments will definitely deal with these matters, and now it's almost time for class, please return to your place quickly, so as not to disturb my sleep. Peter Parker opened his mouth, and he was having fun talking. However, he also knew that he was a chatterbox, and it was indeed almost time for class now. He returned to his position on his own. Originally, he was sitting next to Suyi. But since Hana and he proposed to change positions, Peter Parker's position came to the front row. Jingle bell. The school bell rings. The teacher walked into the classroom. Suyi felt that he was completely enveloped by an inexplicable sleepiness. Hana, the rest is completely up to you. Hana smiled slightly at this. Well, if the teacher comes over, I'll call you. After getting Hana's reply, Suyi fondled Hana's hair. He fell asleep on the table. In fact, the teacher didn't bother to care about Suyi anymore. After all, Suyi's test scores are the best in the school, and the physical education test is the best in the school. Apart from being the first one home after school and not participating in club activities, there is basically nothing to be picky about. The teachers turned a blind eye and closed their eyes, not caring about Suyi anymore. At this time, each member of the chat group is also making various preparations in their respective rooms. One Piece World. Whitebeard said to Margao. Margao, prepare 2 barrels of the best wine, I want to go out. World of Swords. Asuna Yuki was in her princess room, changing clothes after clothes in front of the mirror. It seems that he is thinking about which outfit Suyi will like better. Steel World. Edward Elric came to the country. He found an excuse with his younger brother and his childhood sweetheart Wenli, and after talking for a while, he left the room. Then, using his own alchemy, he created a gadget for everyone to use as a souvenir. Death World. Yunojuretsu sat on the futon, holding his Zanpakuto in his hand, letting time pass by slowly. The world that rebelled against Lelouch. Cece came out of Nunnally's room and went directly to buy her favorite pizza. She plans to bring these pizzas to the party, so that other group members can also taste the delicious pizza. Naruto World. Hinata just completed a mission. At this time, among the leaves, she already has the title of Genius Girl. Its strength has reached above Chunin. It shocked everyone, especially Hinata's father. What shocked Hinata's father even more was that Hinata bought many sets of clothes with her own copper coins today. But for Hinata, as a father, he is more at ease. So, I didn't think too much about this kind of thing. The world of red pupils. Esdeath is in his tent. Looking at the men half kneeling in front of him, he said, I'm going out in a while, and I'm counting on you for the battle during this period. Don't let me down, otherwise, your end will be death. Yes, General Esdeath. Obviously, everyone is looking forward to this offline gathering. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.